Welcome everyone to today's regular council meeting. Today's date is Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. Call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Before we get started here, I just want to acknowledge that we are blessed to be on the land and to live and work here and to honor those who came before us. We value the enduring relationships that we have with our French pioneers and Indigenous peoples who continue to share their history, knowledge, and culture with our community. We're also very thankful for the generations whose dedication and faith helped shape this community into the beautiful city we all call home. So as we get on to our schedule today, we have the adoption of the agenda. So tonight we have a lot on our agenda, so I just want to remind everyone to be concise and let's see if we can get through this in a way that's not wanting to stifle anyone's conversation or anything in the debate, but also be cognizant of the time that we have. So I'll need a Councillor Natellenbos.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the March 24, 2026 regular council agenda be adopted as presented.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote. And that was carried unanimously.
Thanks for open forum this evening.
Thank you. Moving on then to the consent agenda. So as you see, all of the items that are starred are part of the consent agenda. Are there any councillors who want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Councillor Cole-Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to remove item 8.2 from the consent agenda, please.
Thank you. And I will also like to remove items 7.1 and 7.2 from the consent agenda. And seeing no other councillors there, I'll need a councillor to make this motion. To approve. Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I move that council consent to approve the following agenda items without debate. 5.1, regular council meeting minutes, March 10th, 2026. That council accept the minutes of the March 10th, 2026 regular council meeting as presented. 5.2, special council meeting minutes, March 4th to 5th, 2026. That council accept the minutes of March 4th to 5th, 2026, special council meeting as presented. 5.3, special council meeting minutes, March 17th, 2026. That council accept the minutes of March 17th, 2026, special council meeting as presented. 7.3, signage, permitting, fast track, and regular track processes. That council accept the March 24th, 2026 report, signage, permitting, fast track, and regular track processes for information.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any discussion? We'll vote. And that carried unanimously. Okay, we are now going to move on to outline the public hearing procedures for this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Welcome to the March 24th, 2026 City of Beaumont Statutory Public Hearing for Bylaw 1095-26 Montrose Mixed Use Site Bylaw. Public hearings are an opportunity to speak to council on advertised bylaws and certain resolutions. We have been accepting written submissions in the weeks preceding the public hearing. The deadline for written submissions was noon on March 23rd, 2026. We have received one written submission. All written submissions received by the deadline have been provided to council in advance of this hearing for their review and also available for public inspection on the agenda page on the city's website. Registration to present at the public hearing by electronic means was required by 4 p.m. on March 23rd. We did not receive any registrations. Registration to present in person is permitted in advance of the public hearing or at the public hearing. Currently, we have one in-person speaker registered, the applicant, and we do not have anyone else registered by electronic means for today's public hearing. Administration will first make a presentation on the bylaw. Council will be invited to ask questions of clarification. Next, the registered applicant will have up to 10 minutes to make a presentation, and council will be invited to ask questions of clarification. Finally, members of the public who are not registered to speak or those who are present here will be invited to make their respective presentations. If there is anyone here that has not registered to speak, I ask that you please raise your hand now so that we may get your name and add you to the list of presenters, and then fill out the sheet on the table up at the front.
Thank you. So,
I'm sorry. I was just waiting to see if there was anyone in the public. I don't see any hands, so I'll continue on with the...
Continue.
Council will first hear from those who are in favor of the bylaw, then those who are opposed, and anyone else who wishes to be heard. Each speaker presenter will have up to 5 minutes to speak, and then council will have the opportunity to ask questions of clarification. When it is your turn to make your presentation, please ensure your microphone or audio is working and state your full name for the record before presenting. Once your 5 minutes will start when your presentation starts. There will be a clock on the screen in front of you to track your 5-minute allotted time. Please remain at the microphone once you are done presenting, as council may ask you questions following your presentation. Once council has heard all the presentations, the public hearing will be closed and all the regular session of council will reconvene so that council may decide on the matters. The city's public hearings are recorded as a webcast, which will be made available for viewing on the city's website. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I declare the public hearing open at 6:07 for bylaw 1095-26 Montrose mixed-use site. I will now invite administration to make the presentation to us on bylaw 1095-26. Who's the microphone? You want to come up to the front? Oh, okay. If you want to just press your microphone so I can put it on for you. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Katrina Tarnowski, and I'm a senior planner with the Planning and Development Department. I'm here with the Manager of Development Services, Yasmin Sharp. 1095-26 Montrose Mixed-Use Site Municipal Development Plan Amendment. On February 24th, council gave this bylaw first reading. Investec Consulting Limited, on behalf of Robin Homes Limited, has made an application to amend the Municipal Development Plan, or MDP, to change the designation of a parcel at 6415 Montrose Boulevard from the commercial character area to the community commercial/employment center character area. On the slide, you'll see the amendment area depicted within the MDP land use concept map in the southwest corner of the city, as well as an aerial shot showing the boundary of the area proposed to be redesignated. This slide shows an overview of the site context within the Montrose Estates neighborhood. The amendment site fronts onto Montrose Boulevard and is bounded by Highway 625 to the south. To the east is a multi-use trail and self-storage development. To the west is planned commercial development, and to the north is residential development of low and medium density character. You'll see that within walking distance are 3 areas of municipal reserve, including Montrose Park to the north and Champs Vallée School playing fields to the east. Here's a shot of the subject site from Montrose Boulevard looking south. On the left-hand side of the photo, you can see the edge of the existing self-storage development and stormwater management facility. Otherwise, the lands are subdivided, but undeveloped, and this has been the case since 2006. Within the MDP, Beaumont is divided up into 11 different character areas that were created for the plan based on development that was already on the ground, as well as the desired future development that the community wanted to see take place. They provide guidance on the type of development that should occur in different parts of the city, and each character area has a unique set of policies that are used to guide growth. The application before us considers a change between two types of character areas that are classified as local employment. The amendment area is currently designated as commercial, which is meant more for auto-oriented large format stores, whereas the application seeks to change the designation to the Community Commercial / Employment Center, which I'll call CCEC character area, which is still meant as a hub for business and retail, but incorporates a mix of units and is mix of uses, and is designed to be more walkable and with a higher quality of site design and the expectation to serve as a community gathering point. On this slide, we've got a breakdown of how these character areas differ. So both are considered local employment, but the intended uses are slightly different between the two. Whereas under commercial, you'll see retail, office, and entertainment uses, auto services, sales, and gas stations, as well as hotels, restaurants, and other hospitality services. In CCEC, the intended uses are retail, office, and institutional, as well as multi-unit residential. The customer base is slightly different between the two, being more community-wide on commercially designated sites, whereas they're more neighborhood-oriented on the CCEC sites. Residential uses are allowed in commercial, but are not meant to be an integral part of the area, whereas in CCEC, the mixing of residential and other uses is encouraged. Integration of residential uses also differs. So in the commercial character area, you'll see vertical integration only. So what that means is that typically you'll have residential located above ground floor commercial businesses, such as in an apartment style development. On CCEC sites, you can have that vertical integration as well as standalone development that's residential. So that's called horizontally integrated. Access to these sites, also slightly different in that in commercial character areas, the primary access is by vehicle along primary transportation routes. In CCEC, the intent is to have various modes act as primary accesses, so that includes walking, cycling, in Beaumont Future Transit, as well as vehicles. And then the public realm requirements between the two different character areas are where we see a difference. So within commercial areas, any development permit that's submitted must meet minimum requirements as outlined in our Beaumont Urban Design Guidelines, so you'll see that all over the city. But in CCEC areas, development permits are expected to meet a higher standard of site and building design. Evaluation of those permits requires features that create a community focal point for pedestrians and cyclists. So that might look like gathering spaces, the inclusion of street furniture, public art, active transportation connections, etc. The next few slides focus on how we've reviewed pertinent MDP policies to come to a recommendation for this application. Policies under section 4.12 of the MDP focus on the CCEC character area and what should be achieved under this designation. The first policy talks about the types of uses that should be developed on sites designated CCEC. So typical land uses include a mix of retail, offices, institutional uses, and may also include multi-unit residential developments as standalone developments or integrated into the upper stories of commercial or office buildings. This aligns with the development intent stated by the applicant to administration. They are proposing this site be dedicated to neighborhood-level commercial uses mixed with medium-density residential, both horizontally and vertically oriented. This could look like a combination of apartment buildings with main-floor commercial retail units, standalone townhome-style dwelling units, and/or standalone commercial or office uses. The next policy in the CCEC section of the MDP discusses the requirement for this character area to accommodate a range of users, citing transit, active transportation, like walking and cycling, passenger vehicles, and goods movement. Again, we see that the amendment site would meet this policy given that it is adjacent to 2 collector roadways which facilitate both private vehicles as well as future bus routes, and it is near to a number of shared use pathways that connect to the city's trail system so that people can easily walk and bike to and from the site. I've noted at the bottom of the slide that another MDP policy discusses the placement of medium and higher density residential development in proximity to the same variety of transportation routes to facilitate movement of people and goods more efficiently and with less impact than you'd see on a local street. The MDP continues by setting out policies for CCEC areas that require development to carry the expectation of higher quality site and building design. It talks about area structure plans, outline plans, and development permit applications needing to identify site design and architectural guidelines, which may be further defined through architectural controls. What this means is that public realm improvements, such as gathering spaces and public art, would be considered during development permit review at a future stage. And this would help to address resident concerns that planning has been aware of about the quality of development along 30th Avenue. Under Section 3 of the MDP that deals with achieving a healthy, vibrant community, there is further direction provided about medium and high-density housing that would be permitted within the amendment area within a mixed-use development. The MDP promotes walkability and access to schools by considering that medium and high-density housing should be situated within a 5-minute walk for households. The nearest school to this site, École Champs-Valais School, is 415 meters away from the amendment site, positioning it right at the edge of a quick walk to and from class for young students. We also see that the MDP policies that discuss siting multifamily housing near to services, amenities, and transportation options is reflected in the city's data. The housing site selector tool was developed as a means to evaluate parcels across the city for their appropriateness for multi-family and attainable housing based on their proximity to important services and amenities that support the quality of life for families, single persons living alone, and seniors in Beaumont. The amendment site receives moderate scores using the tool, with the site receiving a score of 70 out of 100 for families based on its proximity to schools, childcare, parks and recreation, health facilities, and other amenities. So administration considered the LUB zoning for this site as well in relation to the MDP amendment application. The site is designated as the commercial district. We found that the proposed change to CCEC character area to achieve a mixed-use development met both the intent of the existing district, which was to provide employment opportunities through various commercial and office uses, with supporting residential where appropriate, as well as the intent behind how uses should be mixed within the district. The LUB says that uses shall be a blend of office, commercial, business, and residential, with internal street connectivity to break up large sites. We analyzed the likely uses that development within a mixed-use site could take. Most uses would be permitted as of right within the commercial district. You'll see that dwelling units are discretionary, meaning that the development authority will have the power to evaluate whether the intensity of residential use is appropriate to the context. They will also have the ability to impose conditions on a permit that would mitigate impacts of development and improve compatibility. Some examples of that might be the use of landscaping buffers and setbacks or noise attenuation fencing along the highway. Access to the site is available from Montrose Boulevard, as access to Highway 625 is restricted by Alberta Transportation. To facilitate vehicle movement and reduce any congestion that may result from the development, the applicant has proposed upgrades to the nearby intersection at Range Road 243 and Montrose Boulevard. Lanes would be twinned between the highway and this intersection, and an eastbound turning lane onto Montrose Boulevard for vehicles heading south along the Range Road would be added. The concrete median at the intersection would be removed for all directional turning movements. And the city's infrastructure department and Alberta Transportation have both reviewed the proposal and have accepted it in principle. On the active transportation side, the developer will be required to continue the trail along the southern boundary of their site so that it will fill gaps in the city's trail network. And further transportation studies to determine the potential impact of development on this site can be requested at the time of development permit submission. The applicant has also submitted a servicing memo in support of their application. The memo demonstrated that there was sufficient capacity within the existing sanitary, storm, and water systems to support the change in land use designation. So circulation of the application took place after initial submission in April 2025. Letters and emails were sent with a 4-week circulation period in June to affected landowners within a 100-meter radius, to impacted agencies, and to internal city departments. Information was also posted to the city website. Following this, the application was paused during the months leading up to the municipal election. With our new council now in place, the application was presented for first reading in February 2026, and since then, administration has advertised today's public hearing in the March 6th edition of the Beaumont News, via mail to adjacent landowners, by email to external agencies, and posted on the city's website. During the circulation period, only one response was received from the community. The respondent had questions about how this development differs from a previous proposal that they were aware of on this site a number of years ago. They wanted more information about the final site design to better understand what kind of development might take place, though this information won't be known until a development permit application is received. Their concerns stemmed from other recent light industrial developments in the neighborhood that they felt were impacting the neighboring residential properties. So based on our evaluation, administration supports the amendment for the following following reasons. There are sufficient services and municipal amenities nearby to facilitate a complete community. The application assists with the transition from residential to commercial and industrial uses in the vicinity of this amendment area. The amendment provides for a higher standard of design to help address community concerns. There's sufficient infrastructure capacity to support mixed-use development, and the application would facilitate development that increases the non-residential tax base and available amenities to residents. So administration recommends that following the public hearing, council give bylaw 1095-26 second and third reading. This concludes my presentation, and administration welcomes any questions from council on the app.
Ask them. Council, any questions? Councilor Tellenboss?
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Notes just slightly disappeared here. Give me 2 seconds.
I can go over to Councilor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, yes.
Councilor Cole-Smith, I'll give you up.
Thank you very much, Mayor. A couple of questions. One was mentioned walkability. Like, what does that mean, like in a real sense, for one lot being changed? And how would that meaningfully affect walkability in the area?
Thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith. When we talk about walkability on specific sites, often that has to do with the design of the pedestrian systems within that site, in and around the, design that would accommodate vehicles on the same site. So if we're talking about having parking lots as well as sidewalks, you'd want to make sure that the way that the site is designed facilitates the ability to have pedestrians cross through the area from business to the street in a safe and comfortable way. Oftentimes when parking lots are designed for commercial sites, the primary objective is to ensure that there is space for vehicles to park. And the inclusion of medians or designated spaces for pedestrians to exist within that site are more of an afterthought. The idea for a more walkable site would be for that to be the first consideration, and then you would design other modes around it.
So it's walkability primarily within the site itself?
I think your question was asking about walkability within the site.
Well, I guess in general, like thinking from the broader perspective, if one of the benefits is walkability, what's really changed in the area around it? I can still walk there. Now the one lot is perhaps more walkable, but the area around it hasn't changed. So what does that mean in the broader sense?
I mean, for a single site within a subdivision, you're right that the sidewalks and pedestrian trails leading to that site would have been designed earlier when the subdivision was designed. So crafting a more walkable site by redesignating the MDP would be about ensuring that the site more easily and intentionally connects to those existing trails and then provides for that comfort and safety on site for people walking and maybe biking to it.
Okay, can I ask one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
The notification to the residents, I think I read that was 100 meters. Is that from the center or like from the edge? Presumably it's just the homes to the north.
So through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, it is from the boundary of the site and 100 meters out from the edge. So they're, based on what I can remember from the notification map, I think you're right that the southern boundary didn't extend maybe past the highway into the agricultural properties, but certainly to the north and then to the east and west.
Right, and we didn't put a sign up on this one because it's the MDP, which is a citywide document. Even though we're only changing one lot, can you just maybe expand on that decision?
Yeah, so when our notification bylaw was adjusted and our land use bylaw as well in tandem last year, we created internal policies as to when an application would require a sign on site, and it was determined that anything up to and including a redistricting, which was a site-specific application, would require a sign. As you mentioned, the MDP or any of our kind of neighborhood level plans or area structure plans were determined to not require that level of notification. So it's more about just following the processes that we set out for ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Natalan for sale and go to you, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. While I ask questions, I'm wondering if we're able to pull up the other report where we show an example of what it may look like, just for visual purposes, and I'll continue with my questions here. First question, I guess, we mentioned quality of the site, building design, higher standard. Are we able to define that a bit more and why it's a requirement for this type of development versus the next? Like, what's the reason for requiring a higher standard for this as opposed to other designations?
Through the mayor to Councillor Natalan, I think when the MDP was created, the intent for the CCEC sites were to create community hubs. When you're setting out a land use concept for your city, you're trying to make distinct areas that different developments can be facilitated within. So there are places within the municipality where large format retail, gas stations, any kind of drive-through businesses can exist and should exist. And there are other areas of the city that you may want to set aside and require a higher standard, aesthetic standards for that people can walk to and enjoy. So when these two different character areas were created for the MDP, I think the intention was set that the higher standard would exist in certain designated areas. Now that this amendment has come in, we're considering creating an additional area of the city that would exist and be that community hub where it's pleasant to be in, while at the same time preserving other areas of the city to have the ability to kind of drive your car to and purchase the things you need. So there's different options available for the development community to consider when they're crafting their sites, and then different experiences we're creating for our residences through these character areas. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that is the intent behind why certain areas have higher standards than others.
Sorry, I just want to, Levi, it's page 6 on the planning and development report. The pictures. Oh, there you go. Is that the one you wanted? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that response. Hoping you can provide a little background on this plot of land and potentially how long it's been zoned for commercial, and how come we haven't seen any progress versus if we go this route, the intention obviously would be development. So yeah, just a little history on the land if we could.
So through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, I can answer the first part of your question. So the site was subdivided in 2006, so it's been intended for commercial for about 20 odd years now. To answer your question about why nothing's been developed there and the market conditions that may have led to that, I would refer that question to the applicant to address.
And just for clarity, then same ownership group for the land?
Oh, we're uncertain about that.
Are you asking for from 2006?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, just looking for clarity, at least a little bit of longevity for ownership, or if we have any of that information, or I can ask it at a later time
If you want to get back to us on that, maybe? Okay,
And
perfect.
just two more quick questions, if
for
you don't
it.
mind, Mayor. We, through the presentation there, presented some upgrades to the intersection. I'm just wondering if it's at all possible to have access from some of the main highways as opposed to having to go through the community. Is that something that could be explored?
Through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, Highway 625 has very limited access to it. The province has jurisdiction over the highway, and the intention is to ensure that the goods movement function is kind of the primary use and is uninterrupted. So it's very unlikely that there would be any access available from the highway. So that's why I guess the best option available to the site is from Range Road 243, which is an arterial roadway and connecting to a collector roadway. So those are two higher level roadways within the city that exist. So the positioning of this site at kind of the adjacent to the intersection of two more major roadways does facilitate access for additional traffic rather than local roads.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And just one last question, just in terms of how it's been presented to council tonight. Obviously, there's 3 readings or proposed 3 readings. Just wondering how come that was the approach taken for this scenario as opposed to spreading it out?
We did have, first reading.
Yeah, so through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos, first reading did take place 1 month ago on the 24th. So typical practice would be to have the public hearing and then second and third reading within the same meeting. At the next available council meeting that's still meeting our notification requirements as per the bylaw.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go to Councillor Murray. Oh, yes, go ahead. CAO Schwartz?
Yes, thank you. Very quickly, want to provide a couple pieces of clarity. One, the 625 access, we can absolutely talk to the province. I would say slim and none for getting access off that highway, being that it's a high-low corridor, but certainly we can go down that road. As far as the ownership, we typically don't follow ownership changes. The information we're entitled to is who owned the land 30 days prior to the application, but I'm hearing Wendy saying that it's predominantly been the same ownership group, hasn't flipped of recent, but the applicant could probably share more about. Anyway, just wanted to add that, thank you.
Thank you for that. I just want to clarify too, this image we're seeing, are these two different kinds or the same higher quality integrated? This is not a comparison, is it? I know the one on page 6 in the planning and development report had a comparison. It says this examples of higher quality integrated commercial. So both of these are of the new, who would like to speak to that?
Oh, okay. So I was going to say I don't actually recognize the images used, but it's from the applicant's presentation.
I
so,
see.
yeah.
Okay.
They could probably speak to that.
Yeah. Did you want to see the contrasted one? Yeah, there's one on page 6 of the planning and development report. I think that's the one we're looking for. I'm going to go to Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of questions. For one, do we have any other community commercial areas within Beaumont currently?
So through the mayor to Councillor Murray, there is a intended CCEC area for what we call the urban village in Elon. So that hasn't been developed yet, but the intent for that is to be another mixed-use node for the city that incorporates the same kind of mix of residential and then commercial and institutional uses. Another one that I'm aware of on the south side of the city within the Beaumont Lakes neighborhood. Again, I think we're in discussions with the developer there to maybe see that materialize sometime soon through future applications, but it's kind of a future intent for that part of the city.
Okay, thank you. My next question was in regards to this area specifically states that we would be looking at transit opportunities nearby, and as well in your presentation, it says transportation or transit within, a 5-minute walk. And of course, we're not there. So what does that imply or indicate for us in the future, where right now we don't have any transit anywhere near there?
Mm-hmm. So through the mayor to Councillor Murray, typically transit will use collector roadways or higher level roadways rather than local roads. So when we talk about positioning sites for access to future transit, we're usually talking about making sure they're on the right kind of classification on roadways, so that in the eventuality that the city does have local transit, it's accessible for future bus stops rather than located far away from where they might need to appear.
Okay, so it is more like thinking forward when it's not committing us to something that we don't already have.
No.
My next question is why commercial or community commercial versus we have mixed use areas, for example, in our integrated neighborhood, such as the example of Colonial Way, where we do have that mixed residential, commercial, and I know you talked a little bit about that horizontal and vertical plan, but is it more an intentional choice this time because we want to have a little bit more design process in it?
So through the mayor to Councillor Murray, applying the CCEC designation for this part of the city would kind of assume from the outset that you're going to be developing for mixed use. And the requirement would be for there to be that mix of use on the site. You'd want to have both residential and office or commercial uses. as well as setting out that requirement. So as you mentioned, the 9 Colonial Way site is designated simply as commercial, so there wasn't really any requirement for them to consider mixing uses on that site, nor was there the requirement for them to achieve that higher quality of site design that this would basically impose on the developer. So it's setting an intent for the site that's a little bit different in terms of the focus that they want to achieve.
Okay. I think that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Penrod?
Thanks, Mayor. Apologies if your answer to Councillor Natellenboss's question got this. It just wasn't totally clear to me. Can you speak to any indication that we have at this point, Ms. Tarnowski, as to the what's being contemplated for access to the sites, either off Range Road 243 or Montrose or both? Or is that information that comes later at the development permit stage?
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So yes, site access is determined at the development permit stage. However, just based on the configuration of the parcel, access would have to come at the very least off of Montrose Boulevard. But again, I think that's something that we would need to see on a permit application that came to us to evaluate at that point in time.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't hear you speak to this specifically in your presentation. With respect to the intersection upgrades, in your assessment, is there any benefit to the city to, in layman's terms, unlocking other properties for development from this? I don't see any roads that would connect per se on our long-term planning documents, but just wondered if you could speak to that. It's obviously sounds like it's a significant cost, and I'll ask the proponent about that on their front. I'm just wondering if there's any additional benefit to the city from that work.
So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, typically the approach to any sort of infrastructure improvements as a result of a development permit is that the applicant would be required to mitigate the impacts of their own development on city systems. So based on potentially a traffic impact assessment, they would provide the city with an indication of how much additional traffic their site would generate, and then the upgrades would have to be basically approved in order to address that additional traffic. Of course, I mean, there are benefits to the network overall, but the requirement really is only for the applicant to address impacts of their own development and not account for other developments. So those other future developments could take advantage of the existing infrastructure or potentially require further upgrades if that's justified for what they're proposing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to go to Councillor Van Newkirk, and then Councillor Colesmith and Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one question for administration, and then I'll have others for the next steps in this public hearing process. Can you comment on the fact that the residential component will be discretionary? The report says the intensity of the residential use on site and accompanying conditions will rest with the development authority at the time of development permit submission. Can you speak to that, please?
So thank you for the question through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. Discretionary uses are not permitted as of right. So when an application comes in for a discretionary use, the city can then require additional evidence, reports, justification for their development to ensure that There is compatibility of that development with the neighboring uses, and that any impacts on adjacent properties are mitigated. So the Development Authority can approve a permit that's discretionary. They can approve it with conditions that do that mitigation, or they have the ability to refuse a permit as well if it doesn't meet the city's requirements. A permitted use, the Development Authority can't sort of use that rationale to make their decision, whereas a discretionary use allows them to kind of raise the bar in terms of what the development has to explain or justify to the city.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cole-Smith and then Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to jump back, you mentioned there were concerns from residents about the quality of the other developments. Can you please expand on the issues of quality and then maybe explain how this might address that?
Yeah, so through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith, I think when we, circulate applications and take feedback in from residents, concerns are often subjective. So quality of development isn't necessarily measurable unless it's not meeting a specific regulation in our land use bylaw, for instance. I think some of the concerns stemmed from the adjacency of properties in that area, of residential properties in that area to light industrial developments. Like for instance, I know there's automobile uses and then a storage site on south of 30th Avenue. And so often light industrial development has more of an impact, for instance, than commercial development. And so again, it really is the resident perception of the adjacency that was kind of the source of the concern. Administration feels that a mixed-use site is a better almost buffer in between light industrial properties and low-density residential, in that it is a kind of neighborhood-level commercial and residential properties rather than being more light industrial directly adjacent to low-density properties.
Right, so by changing this to the community commercial, it's an easier pill to swallow, mostly for residents to the north, I guess.
Yes.
I guess hypothetically then, would we, if we had to do it over again, would we then advocate for the other site that's currently commercial to be changed as well? Or given all of the benefits of community commercial and the higher standard and the walkability, where would you see a commercial specific zone, right?
So through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith, this application is applicant-driven. The city doesn't typically amend our MDP, site by site, based on administration's recommendations. So in this case, this site is being amended based on an application submitted to us. However, I think the site directly to the west of it is also located directly adjacent to the Range Road and to with the highway on the south, so at an intersection of two major roadways. There is rationale for it to be a commercial site, but ultimately it's really the landowner that determines the highest and best use on the site. So.
Okay, I think we got to the core of it there. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on that. He was talking about resident concerns. Do you have a number of people? Like you said, you mentioned a few times in your presentation, this satisfies or addresses resident concerns. Is that something documented? Like, do you know how many concerns came in?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. There was just a single concern made by phone call that I have a record of as a part of this application. So that's the concern that I'm referencing in the presentation.
Okay, so it wasn't like for previous, other ones down on 30th? No. Okay, this one. Thank you for clarifying. Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to keep it brief. So I see the applicants here. Thank you very much for coming, and I'm looking very much forward to your presentation. Just a few questions. The first thing is, when I look at the moving things from commercial to the CCEC, there's some things that are taken off the table, for instance, hospitality services, restaurants, these type of things. And if we're going to have it neighborhood-oriented, I don't understand why we would limit ourselves to retail, office, and institutional use, and not have a coffee shop, for instance, or something like that for the neighborhood to enjoy in that area, because there isn't any. So why would we limit ourselves to the intended uses from those services when we go to the CCEC? I'm just looking at page number, what page is this? 7 of 21?
Thank you for the question, through the mayor. So that list is exemplary about the scale of development and kind of the intensity of the use. It's not meant to be a limiting list. It's, like I said, exemplary. Ultimately, what is permitted and discretionary is determined through the land use district. Many of the more intense uses in the commercial district, for example, drive-through gas station, are discretionary. So based on the municipal development plan and the intent of that area, we would not be supporting an application for a gas station, for example, whereas restaurant cafe is a permitted use within the commercial district and would be within that scale envisioned by the community commercial designation in the municipal development plan.
Yeah, I'm just looking at page 7 of your presentation, not the 27 of 123. So that's thank you for clarifying that, because it doesn't really show it that way, which is good to see. The other thing was, just to dovetail off of what Councillor Van was talking about as far as residential. Is there a percentage of residential? I mean, we do have some minimums for medium density residential. We have some minimums for high density residential, but we don't have any maximums in that case. Do we have a percentage of how much commercial as opposed to how much residential would be in this neighborhood? For clarification's purposes.
Thank you for the question. In determining the intensity and mix of uses, we would be looking at the policies of the municipal development plan. This particular lot doesn't have an area structure plan or outline plan that gives a strict percentage, for example. So it would be a discussion with the applicant and going back and community commercial is meant to be an employment center, so we would make sure that that intent is being reflected, and that residential is a supportive element to that employment center.
So there's no guarantees as to what the mix or percentage would be if this should go through, other than the fact of the review of the ASP. Is that correct?
Through the mayor, there isn't a specific regulation that limits that it must be X ratio or this percentage. That's correct.
Ms. Raymond, did you want to chime in there?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Sorry, you're going to have to bear with me. I injured my tongue yesterday, and I don't recommend it. Apparently, eating is dangerous. Just wanted to clarify that the applicant is here if you do have more specific questions on their development, and they'd be happy to answer some of those. So, specifically about that residential and what their future plans are.
Yeah, and I respect that wholeheartedly. I'm just looking at the spirit of the CCEC as opposed to commercial, because commercial, their residential use is allowed, but not an integral part of this area, whereas mixing of residential and other uses is encouraged in the CCEC. So that's where I'm getting at, is trying to figure out where's that happy medium. And yes, I'm looking forward to hearing from the applicants for sure. I'm just trying to get a reasoning why we're moving into that direction. And furthermore, to Councillor Penrod's scope, saying that this is a higher elevation of the of what the land is going to look like, what the housing are going to look like, and what the shops are going to look like. I definitely want to know that. We're very much on board with that. But what is the ratios going to be in this one? So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, doesn't seem any more questions for the administration. Thank you so much. We are now going to invite the applicant to come forward to make your presentation to us about bylaw 1095-26, and specifically this passive land. If you want to just press the microphone there when you're ready, and I can turn it on for you, and just introduce yourselves.
Closer to me and then.
It's on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Great. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Emma Zerowell, and I'm joined here with Scott Mackey from Investec Consulting, here to speak to the Municipal Development Plan Amendment for Bylaw 1096 or 1095-26, the Montrose Mixed Use Site Amendment to allow for a variety of commercial and residential land uses in the Montrose neighborhood on behalf of Robin Homes, who's a company involved in residential and commercial development in the metro region. This that's me. So this application is proposing to redesignate the subject site from commercial to community commercial employment center in the MDP. The intent of this application is to allow for a high-quality commercial development that provides for both horizontal and vertical mixed use. Through early discussions with administration, it was identified that under the current commercial MDP designation, that residential development would only be limited to above the commercial uses. The proposed designation provides greater flexibility by allowing both standalone residential and residential above commercial while still maintaining a strong commercial presence. This will allow for a variety of housing types with family-oriented housing as an option rather than just apartment-style dwellings. Our proposal does not include a redistricting, so the land use will remain commercial. The MDP amendment allows for flexible residential options within the commercial land use district, which is key to delivery. In the broader context, this site benefits from the strong connectivity to surrounding amenities, including schools, parks, and the existing trail network. With residential uses to the north, major employment centers to the south and west, and light industrial to the east, the Community Commercial Employment Center will provide a transition away from the major intersection of Range Road 243 and Highway 26 and the future commercial development to the west. The landowner currently owns both sites and intends to develop them as one integrated site. By allowing ground floor residential in the Community Commercial Center employment area, we'll be able to provide medium density housing options that support the surrounding commercial uses. The development overall will be a mixed development with ground-oriented housing, which will create daily activity and help to support small-scale local businesses. This layout, with the western parcel remaining commercial, will further ensure that the transition from commercial to Community Commercial Employment Center is well thought out and reinforce the transition further into the residential neighborhood. One of the key benefits to the CCEC designation is that it does provide for this higher quality of design, including pedestrian-oriented design, architectural standards, and the opportunity for enhanced public realm features, such as gathering spaces to integrate into the surrounding Montrose Estates neighborhood. Given that this site is across the street from single-family homes, having ground floor residential mirrored across Montrose Boulevard will complement the existing neighborhood while providing commercial opportunities for the existing residents. The subject site has remained vacant for many years. With the site first subdivided in 2006, it has been listed a few times on the market with some general interest. In 2022, it was listed again and purchased by the current landowner in the past 2 years. With this amendment, the site will now be positioned to move forward towards development into 2026 and 7. I will now pass this to Scott to deliver a few more slides. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Scott Mack. I've worked in municipal planning for over 40 years on both the public and private sectors. I'm a registered professional planner as well as a member of the Institute of Transportation Engineers, so I can respond to some traffic questions as well. Beaumont has been one of the fastest growing cities in Canada in recent years. The city's evolved as one of the most desirable cities to live in the region. Many years ago, Beaumont was seeing many new residents that were attracted by housing prices that were more affordable than they were in the city in Edmonton. Since that time, Beaumont has become a city that now attracts residents interested in the lifestyle the city provides with great amenities and services. Now the average price in Beaumont for a house, is more than $100,000 higher than that in Edmonton. With strong residential growth in recent years, the city has been seeking a better balance in their residential and non-residential tax base. The recent announcement of Beaumont's Innovation Park will directly and indirectly help fulfill that goal. Development in the park will attract jobs, and these jobs will in turn create economic spin-offs that will bring more non-residential development to the city. Entry-level jobs go along with entry-level housing. The subject site and adjacent commercial site were created as a lot almost 20 years ago. Since that time, interested buyers in considering development options could not see sufficient market demand for such a large commercial site in this area. We've received several inquiries over the years from prospective buyers that have looked at it and not been able to make a go of it. The site is away from the primary commuter traffic of 50th Avenue, and while Highway 625 is a busy corridor to Nisku, the indirect access makes it less attractive for commercial to attract the pass-by traffic. To attract enough traffic to be economically viable, a site this large needs an anchor, such as a grocery store. Market studies have shown that the 3 major grocery stores in the city are sufficient to meet current local demand. While there remains the possibility of development of other types of uses that would serve as an anchor, such as a medical center, there has been no specific interest for these. In the meantime, the site remains idle, limiting tax revenue for the city. Full development has the potential to increase municipal tax assessment by tens of millions of dollars. To advance development of the site, however, the owner would like to pursue a mixed-use development. While on the site to the west, a primarily commercial development with vertical mixed use is possible. The demand for apartment development over commercial main floor is limited in the Beaumont market. The owner would like to pursue a horizontal mixed-use model for the site to the east. Having ground-level entrances to apartments or townhouse units is attractive for families with young children. It's also attractive for older families where ground-level access improves access to amenity space for outdoor living and recreation. This type of housing option as part of a mixed-use development with easy access to retail amenities is attractive for young families. Meeting this missing middle demand offers an opportunity to advance development on the site. As I mentioned earlier, the price point of homes in Beaumont commands premium over what is currently offered in Edmonton. Something like a townhouse option is very attractive for families just starting out in their first home. Local market intelligence from realtors suggests that young families that settle in Beaumont tend to stay in Beaumont as they move up to a larger home. Providing them with an entry point in the housing market that allows them to become part of the community induces families to stay and grow with the community. As you've heard, the current MDP does not allow for that horizontal mixed-use development on the site, only residential above commercial uses. The proposal amendments would allow more flexibility in development options to bring market-responsive homes with ground-level access to and commercial uses to the site. This development can provide a broader range of options for current and future Beaumont families who want to grow up in this community. Having a village-type development on this site would become very appealing not only for the residents of the site, but for neighboring residents as well. Thank you very much for your time. I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Councillor Van Newkirk first.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the presentation. Quick question, or a couple of questions, I guess. Has Robin Homes done this type of development in other communities?
So Robin Homes, it's a relatively young company as a land. They've built homes, but they haven't developed large-scale sites like this in the past.
Okay, thank you for that. Also, I don't know if you'll be able to answer this question, but how do you envision this parcel being organized? Can you share some of the vision for what that could look like? You know, what are the types and styles of residential? How many stories do you envision? Help us paint that picture for us, please.
So I'm going to apologize in advance and say I can only speculate. However, from a planning standpoint, the way to develop this site is to create a very positive interface with that residential development to the north. I think putting commercial, for example, right up against that north property line would be visibly and potentially from an activity standpoint not a good interface. So what I would suggest is that we would probably draw a townhouse type of development, that ground-oriented residential, closer to the residential to the north across the street from it, and the commercial would be closer to Highway 625, a little bit noisier, a little bit more activity, and then more conducive to commercial types of uses. Again, I can only speculate at this point in time, but that's what I would envision happening.
Yeah, thank you. I would say it's unfortunate that we can't get more of a picture painted on that. It would have been more positive, I think, if that question could be answered more wholeheartedly.
And one of the things I can offer is that, I mean, the developer doesn't have a site plan. They have some speculative site plans that they've looked at, but they really don't. With this site having been so challenging, is that they will test it with the marketplace. I expect the site to the east will develop in 3 or 4 stages, and what each of those stages contain will be dependent on market conditions and the level of absorption they get of the product that they build.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's kind of why I said, what is the vision, right? Because I definitely respect all of that. So, Mayor, that's my questions for right now.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Hyde.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for your interest in Beaumont. Obviously, this is an area of the city that is, a little bit tougher to try to wrap your head around as far as access off of the highway and everything like that. And we recognize that, or I recognize that. We're right beside a light industrial area that you're going to be beside with the new storage units. I think my concern is I don't want this to look piecemeal. I don't want this to look like just something was plopped down there. So, as far as the care, the attention to detail that's going to go into this site, it's foremost, of course, on my mind that I look at this and go, who's going to want to live beside those storage units? What type of building are you going to put beside those storage units? What type of businesses are going to be beside this area if it's swallowed in between a commercial and a light industrial? So those are all big concerns, and I think dovetailing on what Councillor Van Nieuwkerk said, if we had some sort of a vision to take a look at this and say, and I understand that this is the first part of this, and then you're going to come back with a vision and those type of things, but it's very much so we can, as council, can say, hey, now I can see where you're going or what's happening with this, because we want to make sure that, like I said, it just doesn't look like something was just dropped into that area. And I know it's a challenge in that area, and I also appreciate the willingness to change some of the pathways and roadways in and out of the area. So keeping that in mind, that's my concerns, is into those areas, as you can well see. So like I said, I look forward to seeing what this kind of envisions and what this looks like, because it is an area that we need to develop. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Natellenbos.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping you're able to answer this question. You had mentioned that the current setup is challenging or has been challenging. Are you able to speak to those challenges and again, maybe why there's been no development as of yet?
So given the location of the site and the adjacent land uses, the site is more conducive to what I would call a neighborhood commercial. So convenience retail type uses, convenience store, maybe a hair salon, those personal service shops, those kinds of things. The issue is that a site this large isn't conducive to a neighborhood commercial. It's too big of a site to be a neighborhood commercial site. So what we're seeking to do is find a balance, if you will, in terms of how much of that can truly be that retail use. Can we bring in some professional services such as medical or dental, that kind of thing, but at the same time using that residential to complement it, to create more of that village feel to that east site and provide a better interface with the residential to the north. The site to the west will be, or as it stands now, will be an auto-oriented site. You'll maybe see things there like a drive-through, a gas station, those kind of things, more car-oriented. And this is where the interface between those becomes important in terms of the permeability of the site for pedestrians. We don't want to keep them away from the site to the west, but it's really going to be that the east side is more the core, if you will, of what I'm calling kind of that village concept.
Perfect, thank you. On that note, and I'm sure I'm off on a few words here, but there was mention that it would be more family-oriented development as opposed to, I believe you said just apartments or something along those lines. Are you able to speak to what you mean by family-oriented versus just apartments?
Yeah, so obviously the user, like families can live in any sort of development. However, ground floor residential, whether that's an apartment with front doors on the ground or townhomes, those are very attractive to families and they attract families to the neighborhood, whereas apartments can attract a wider variety of residents, even like single people and seniors. So given the amenities that are around the area and the vision for the smaller scale retail opportunities, bringing families to the area would add a lot of vibrancy to the commercial site.
Perfect, thank you. And one last question, Mayor, if you don't mind. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I'll ask the question. Should this change of designation not go through, what does the future look like?
So should it not go through, the site to the west is likely developable given the existing zoning context. I think that to develop commercial beyond that in this location would be very difficult. I think the site would sit. I don't see, I mean, it's going to take several years potentially even to develop the site to the west. And we just don't see enough demand. The exception would be if there was an anchor of some kind, something to draw activity to it. And again, a medical center, something that needed that much land, if you will, in terms of, but there just aren't a lot of those types of uses unless you may find them as part of a business park or something like that. Certainly from a retail standpoint, a grocery store would do that. But the city has 3 large grocery stores, and based on information that we have, there isn't really an interest from another large grocery store to come into this market.
Perfect. And that being said, again, should this be approved, is the intent to get started on this project sooner than later, or is it potentially waiting until the market feels right? Or
so the site, I expect, will develop from west to east regardless. The owner is actively looking right now for tenants for the development to the west. He's got a couple of groups he's talking to. Basically, you don't want to build a building and have it sit empty. So what he would do is he would develop that site on the basis of where he had active leases. If this is approved, you may actually see some townhouse development, an application come in for townhouse development up on the north edge of the site adjacent to the existing single family earlier on. If we can't do the ground-oriented residential, I expect that he would leave it alone for the time being.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Ms. Zerwell and Mr. Mackey for your presentation. Just a couple further questions. Some of my questions have been checked off by my colleagues here. Can you speak at all today about how Robin Homes intends to manage the transition? You started on this. I just think see if you'd like to go any further. The transition between the commercial and the CCEC area as they kind of build out to completion.
So I
Should
think
your
what
proposal be successful?
So based on a couple of the concepts that we've put together, what we've strived to do is provide good pedestrian permeability. So a number of walkways that would come from the eastern portion of site connecting into the western portion of the site. But as it's not as pedestrian oriented, the walkways would be focused more across probably the front of the commercial buildings. On the east side, you would see more walkways sort of all over the place, whereas on the east side, or sorry, the west side, it would be more a focus on the buildings themselves.
Thank you. And I think you already stated that, in your view, the way to develop that eastern parcel would be to focus any allowable residential along kind of that north stretch along Montrose Boulevard. Is that
Yeah, so the development of the site to the east is going to be dependent on the access to services. It makes sense to develop it from north to south. That's where the pipes are, that's where the roads are. You would have to, the investment, if you will, the front ending of infrastructure would be less by just starting from the north and then working the way to south, and then extending the services as you work your way down.
Thank you. And secondly, the presentations both from our administration and yours kind of stress that this proposed amendment is coming forward to kind of make the economic viability of the project go forward. I'm just wondering, as we do this work, and you mentioned in your report, endeavor to increase our non-residential accessible lands and projects. One of the frustrations that we run into as a community, and we certainly hear about it on council, is great, you've got a new commercial development going up. It's a daycare and a pizza place and stuff that we already have. So it's not enhancing the wider community in that sense of bringing new services or new opportunities to Beaumont. Are you in a position today to speak to how with this adjustment, or if with this adjustment, the proponent would be in a position to be a little bit more patient or targeted with recruiting of those potential leasers?
So one of the realities of this site is it's on the fringe, it's on the edge of the city. And so in terms of the types of businesses that would survive there, the types of services they provide, it's not a downtown kind of site. It's a suburban, even in the context of Beaumont, but not a very big city, but still there's a suburban element to it in terms of that character. So you're likely, it's going to be harder to attract like an office tenant to it. A medical or dental tenant, is something that it's a destination. People will go to that medical office or they'll go to that dentist office, but less so for other types of office type services and other types of office type activities.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Councillor Cole-Smith. Oh, go ahead, Jennifer. Thank you. I'll just keep you there. Go ahead.
Thank you. Just to add into this one, our investment attraction manager has been working with the developer as well as meeting with their new realtor. So there are some things we've already been sending along that way, and we're sort of doing what we keep promising to do is as a new development comes up, we try to find those right fits for the community needs. So that's underway for this development as well.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go to Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I heard earlier from administration that the applicant, you guys, had done an evaluation on like the sewer and the below grade utilities and found them adequate.
Sorry, on this.
I thought I'd heard that an evaluation had been done on the sewer and the utilities in the area and they'd been deemed adequate to accommodate this development. Did I get that right? What criteria did you use to do that evaluation if we're unclear as to what the vision is? Like, how did we establish that it's good? We don't know what's going in, but this is okay.
So there's 4 basic elements of service. In addition to power and gas are fairly simple to deal with. You can draw those in very easily. From a storm pipe standpoint, the site itself size determines how much storm load that it will create for the system. So the site size is how much rain falls on any square meter of land, and so that stays the same. From a sanitary standpoint, we use formulas that are based on the size of a commercial space and the size of a residential unit. So a residential unit will use a factor, let's say a one-bedroom unit might be a factor of 1.2 persons per dwelling. Two-bedroom unit, maybe it's 1.6 or 1.8. And based on those factors, a calculation is done as to how much total sanitary flow comes from it. We've examined the sanitary system adjacent to the site and determined that on the basis of what could be developed, in practical terms, could be developed on the site, there's no capacity issues. Water is again somewhat simpler because it's easier to pull and you don't run into the issues of water's under pressure, so it goes uphill and it goes downhill, whereas sanitary only goes downhill, obviously. And so those are easily resolved. From a transportation standpoint, opening up that intersection at the is it 243, allowing turning movements in all different directions. What it does is it creates easier access and egress from this. The way it's oriented right now, for example, if someone was coming into this commercial site and then they wanted to leave it, the current configuration wouldn't allow them to come out. They'd have to actually shortcut through the community to find their way back out to 243. So opening up that intersection means it creates the ability for them for egress, as well as provides that capacity that's needed.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Lots of questions, lots of robust questions. Thank you so much. Mr. Mackey, thank you for even painting a picture about the potential of where those townhouses will go. I agree with Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. It would have been nice to have a little bit more of a visual of what that would look like, and that is definitely my concern, is what is the ratio of residential to commercial that would be in this area, and where those townhouses would be if you built out horizontal, because I think it makes a difference in this particular space for sure. I don't have any further questions. All my questions have been answered by colleagues. So if there's no more questions, right now I'm going to, there's nobody here. Shall we just give a call to the audience? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. We should definitely follow.
Yeah. Follow the procedure. Thank you so much for your presentation, your answering our questions. We appreciate it. So I'm just going to formally ask if there's anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of bylaw 1095-26. Seeing none, I will now ask if there's anyone wishing to speak in opposition of bylaw 1095-26. And seeing none, I will now ask if anyone who deems themselves to be affected by bylaw 1095-26 to come forward. Hearing no further presentations, I will now close the public hearing for bylaw 1095-26 at 7:22. I'm sorry, 7:21. Okay, we are actually going to take a break right now, a 10-minute break, and we will resume at 7:31. Okay, we're going to come back. I'm not sure if we have to go. Are we already live? We're already live? On our agenda, so at this point we have our second and third readings that we have to go through at this point. So Madam Clerk, let me know anything beyond this. So I just want to remind Council that we, at this point, cannot ask any other questions once we go through the second reading. Is that correct?
Just to clarify, it's just any questions to the applicants.
Just to the applicants. Once we do a second reading, we can still ask questions to administration.
Yeah, you can still ask questions into second reading. What we'll do is I'll put the motion up on the screen and a councillor can move it. And then after that, you can start debating the motion.
Okay. And then if we decided that we wanted to postpone the third reading, what are the options of that? Is that possible?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, you could definitely postpone the third reading of this motion. I would just ask that if there's something more that needed to be done with that, whether or not you're directing it back to administration for further work, or what you would be looking at by postponing it this evening.
Okay. Just so we are aware. Thank you so much. So is everyone ready to go to second reading? Okay. Let's put the motion up. Councillor Penrod, I see you there.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that bylaw 1095-26, Montrose mixed-use site, a bylaw to amend bylaw 938-19, municipal development plan, our complete community, be given second reading.
Any discussion? Okay, so we'll go to a vote. I gotta get my computer, I'm sorry. Sorry, just gotta wake up my computer here. Sorry, come back. All right. We need a few more voters. Doesn't look like everyone voted. So at this point, we are voting to give it a second reading, and then we have one more reading after this. Oh, I keep pressing and nothing's working. They're locked. Okay. Let's try this again, sorry.
Mayor, we still need Councillor Murray to vote. Perfect.
Everyone's done it? Okay. So that passed 5-2 with, I cannot see myself and Councillor Hyde. Councillor Hyde opposed? Okay. All right. Is there any reason that anyone would like to postpone a third reading or anything that is necessary? Nope. Okay. So we'll continue on. And Councillor Van Newkirk. Oops, try that again.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd move that bylaw 1095-26 be given third reading. Thank you.
Any discussion? We have two people who want to, Councillor Natellenbos. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question for administration. Obviously, through the presentations coming from the applicant, as well as the recommendation from council, majority of the information was positive and supporting this change. Are we able to speak to maybe some unintended consequences or potential risks that could come with proceeding with this change?
Ms. Sharp?
Thank you, Councillor Natellenbos, through the mayor. Administration provided its analysis through the report and considered any risks and had that reflected within the report. And there was no unintended consequences that were highlighted or anticipated.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then just last question. We had talked about it a bit, but I think my concern just relates to traffic, and what was provided was obviously, it doesn't sound like off of the main highway we would be able to get access, but Could you walk me through the process to potentially get access off of 243 as opposed to the turnoff and adjusting that intersection? Like, what's the application process? What's approval look like?
Do you mean for 625? You said 243.
243.
Oh,
yeah.
you did? Okay.
Through the mayor, so through subdivision, every lot requires its own legal access. That can be facilitated through another lot, but it would require easements and agreements agreed by both landowners. And typically, that wouldn't be imposed by the development authority unless there were specific circumstances to warrant it. For example, there was limited access off of an acceptable roadway in the near vicinity. I'm not sure if that answers your question. But.
I guess I'll just ask it in more simpler terms. Is the only access point going to be from Montrose Boulevard to this property?
Thank you. Through the mayor, yes, most likely, because there's also stacking distances and access limitations from Highway 625 that are imposed by Alberta Transportation and Economic Corridor. So most likely the accesses will come off Montrose Boulevard. A request could be put in to have an additional access in between the intersection at Montrose Boulevard and the intersection at Highway 625. Given our communication thus point with Alberta Transportation, it's very unlikely that would be approved.
Okay, perfect. So I guess my question is, I know we mentioned there was no unintended consequences, but I could just see potentially that high level of traffic coming in through a residential road or boulevard, potentially creating some conflict for existing homeowners. So it's just, one consideration that I think should be considered in the decision that we're going to be making. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tellenbos. Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, I just wanted to, thank you, Mayor. In regards to the Development Authority, if we decide to make this CCEC area, how much, when we're considering this area through the Development Authority, how much space do they have to work with? For instance, are they going to be able to say this is too much density for this area? Are they going to be able to say those type of things? Are they going to be able to come back with other recommendations to the ASP saying we don't feel that this matches the area, for instance, those type of things? Is this what the Development Authority will be able to do, or are we limited in scope as to what we do if we make this decision today?
Back to you, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you. The development, as a discretionary use, the Development Authority has the ability through the Municipal Government Act and through the Land Use Bylaw to impose conditions and also refuse the application. That refusal has to be grounded in planning reasons. The Land Use Bylaw administrative portion outlines what some of those reasons would be. And then if there was a conflict in that, then there would be an opportunity to appeal, and then the decision entirely rests with the Subdivision Development and Appeal Board and no longer becomes a decision of the Development Authority. That is true for all development permit decisions. There's an opportunity to appeal and take the decision out of the hands of the Development Authority. But as a discretionary use, there is that opportunity to refuse an application or impose conditions above and beyond what the regulations directly state within the land use bylaw.
Yeah, and thank you very much for clarifying that. I appreciate that. Where I'm kind of going with this as well is we've saw some development go up that some of the immediate residents, of course, we already had our public hearing here, so we can't really go forward anywhere with that. So there's no longer a recourse at all once these buildings start to go up, or is that true or not true?
Ms. Raymond?
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde. In the commercial district, the residential component is discretionary. Discretionary uses are subject to a 3-week appeal period whereby anybody who deems themselves to be impacted or affected by the development can launch that appeal. So there is still recourse through that component of that permit process.
Okay, just to make sure that there is an appeal process once an ASP is put forward or something of that nature. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Ms. Raymond.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Hyde. The next step on this permit, if council chooses to approve this change tonight to the municipal development plan, would be that they would be eligible to go to a development permit. There will be no need for any statutory plan work on this property.
Okay, thank you very much. Just want to clarify those things.
I'm going to go to Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll close. Councillor Cole-Smith can go first.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. So I heard earlier, once a development permit is, once a permit is requested, there could be a traffic study component. Can you elaborate on that? That we could require a traffic study for development?
Go ahead, Ms. Sharp, or go ahead, Ms. Tarnowski.
That's all right. So through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith, yes, a transportation impact assessment can be requested as a requirement of the permit application and assessed as part of the evaluation that the development officer completes.
And the results of that study or that assessment would drive a decision? Or is it's just done and gone, but if it were unfavorable, something would change, correct?
Yes, so the development authority can use the recommendations that come out of that report to either, I guess, impose conditions on the permit that would address those concerns, or if, as you say, the results were deeply unfavorable, could be the basis for a refusal, as long as it was sort of justified from a planning perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can tell that we're wrestling with this one just because there's so many unknowns, and I feel the traffic is huge when you put residential into the mix, especially family residential in that regard. So Councillor Van Newkirk, Councillor Natellenbos just has one other thing, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question in terms of the notifications. There's 29 that were noted that were sent out. Are you able to advise if that was primarily residential or primarily business, or do we have a breakdown of which types were notified?
Through the mayor to Councillor Natellenbos. The list was primarily residential lots. I think there would have been the directly adjacent properties to the east that were commercial or light industrial, but the remainder were all residential lots.
Perfect, thank you. So I just really want to reiterate, obviously, the reason we have these public hearings are to get feedback from residents and business owners within the community. Based on what we saw here, if 29 of those were primarily residents or homeowners, and there was zero in support, zero in opposition, I would like to think that folks who would be in opposition would speak louder than those potentially who are in support. So it's good to see that there's no one in opposition. As we change plans, my concern is usually with homeowners, and the question we always get is, well, I was told something else was going to be in my backyard, and now there's going to be something different in my backyard. So that's always a concern that comes to mind. But that being said, if individuals aren't speaking out, it's very difficult to gauge whether this is a want or people may be in opposition. But based on these numbers here, it doesn't seem like anyone's in opposition, so I think it's something to just keep in the back of mind as this decision's being made. Thank you.
Those are great points, Councillor Natellenbos, because definitely we want to hear from the public and decide accordingly, for sure. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Really good point. Traffic, I'm pleased to hear that if we do a traffic assessment, that bears some weight in terms of even some decision-making in terms of the discretionary use. Because I think that's really important, in particular, this particular location has a lot of unknowns when it comes to traffic. I'm just thinking about further down on 30th, how there was a lot of people opposed because of the traffic problems down there because of there's daycares and things like that happening in residential. So I don't think it's a small thing we need to be mindful of. I'm going to pass it over to you, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. My intent here would be to close, so I think that's where we're at. I don't see any other councillors wishing to speak. So the report tonight points out that the economic development team actively recruited this investor to diversify Beaumont's tax base, which is exactly what needs to happen and exactly what the community's been asking for. They want to know that this is happening, and here's the evidence. The report tonight also points out that the new designation requires higher design standards, which directly addresses community concerns about the perceived quality of nearby developments on 30th Ave. Bringing these two comments together is a great example of listening to community feedback and working with it within the planning framework. There have been many vocal concerns with the quality of buildings along 30th Ave, and the community keeps asking why different areas within Beaumont remain undeveloped. Tonight we heard why. This is chipping away at that available land and is an important step towards creating a great space that will contribute quite positively to the city tax base. Bare land versus built-out land, as the applicant stated, has quite different tax implications for Beaumont. So that's it for me.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to a vote right now. If you could just maybe just read it again, Councillor Van Newkirk. I would know.
What's that, sorry?
Oh, sorry, just read it out again before we know.
Yeah, no, I'll move that bylaw 1095-26 be given third reading. So thank you.
We still have one more vote for Councillor Penrod waiting to come in. Sorry, we are having problems with our system here.
I can see that, yeah.
So I do apologize.
So that passed with Councillor Hyde opposed. Thank you for that robust discussion. Thank you for your presentation. And right now we'll go on to our next business item. You're as well, of course. All right, so we're going to move on here to business item 7. And I believe we're going to have a presentation first, is that correct? Or are we just going to go straight to questions? Madam Clerk, if you could direct me here. Are we having a presentation first on this or no? For the EMP and for 7.1?
Yes, we will have a presentation
Okay.
and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Councillor Van Newkirk, you have your, no, you're good? Okay, okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Great. So good evening, Mayor and Councillors. I am Lenore Turner with Environment, the environmental lead. I'm here today to present the report on the Environmental Master Plan Progress Update for 2025. So the Environmental Master Plan was approved by Council. We could put the report up on the board if that's possible, just to refer to. Thanks. The Environmental Master Plan was approved by Council in 2021 and is the plan that guides Beaumont's progress towards its environmental goals. As per the plan, it indicates that administration will provide an annual report to Council summarizing progress over the year. So EMP implementation progress is summarized in detail in the attachment in the table with regards to the 3 pillars and 14 key action items listed as EMP goals. In terms of key EMP achievements in 2025, I'll just go through the list. So we launched the Clean Energy Improvement Program. So this launched this morning, and there were already many pre-qualification applications. There were already 40 today in one day. So the funding agreement with the FCM to support the launch of this program was signed in 2025, and work throughout the year was conducted with Alberta municipalities to launch this program. This year, we provided support for the transition to the Extended Producer Responsibility Program, which is the ERP program. So we collaborated with many organizations for this transition. The ERP program is a new regulation launched by the Alberta government to shift the financial burden of recycling single-use items from municipalities to the companies that produce them. So we helped transition to that new program. We launched a battery recycling program in Beaumont in collaboration with Call to Recycle at no cost to Beaumont due to the new EPR regulations. In terms of execution of the urban forestry management strategy, we submitted an application to FCM's Growing Canada's Community Canopies program, and were granted a $200,000 grant to support the tree planting. So trees will be planted throughout 2026 in at least 3 parks in Beaumont. We also participated in the Municipal Energy Management Program, which is run by the Municipal Climate Action Change Centre through Alberta municipalities. And this program funds energy audits, strategies to improve energy efficiency in city buildings, and implement energy efficiency retrofit projects. So through this program, we received $60,000 for the completion of 3 energy audits and $20,000 to complete 2 lighting upgrade projects. Those lighting upgrade projects will be completed in 2026. We had involvement in the Community Energy Conservation Program, and a grant application was submitted and approved through this program to complete installation of energy efficient furnaces at Ken Nickel, and the installation was completed in 2025. There were also actions for an education campaign for waste sorting, including delivering communications through social media for waste sorting and on the city's website. There were 2 solid waste audits in 2025 conducted by our waste contractor GFL with oversight from administration to support efforts to improve proper waste sorting, which improves acceptance of materials at facilities to reduce costs, reduce safety hazards, and improve environmental impacts. Delivery of a school education engagement program, which included presentations to 16 classrooms in 2025 regarding proper waste sorting, waste reduction, and environmental sustainability. Delivered the annual recycling roundup event, which includes the collection of electronics, paint, tires, and household hazardous waste from residents to ensure their proper disposal. And there were grants and rebates obtained to support this event. These efforts at proper waste sorting aim to increase recycling and compost diversion rates, to divert from the landfill to help reduce Beaumont's landfill disposal costs, improve processing efficiency, reduce safety hazards, and increase environmental benefits. There was also an education campaign on water conservation information this year on social media and the city's website. We also continued with the environmental data tracking and management. Data collection includes a variety of information on waste generation and diversion, city facility energy use, the snowmelt facility, air quality, city trees, environmental assessment reports, and biophysical reports. There was also participation in multiple regional environmental initiatives and groups, such as the Edmonton Region Waste Advisory Committee, Leduc District Regional Waste Management Commission, Capital Region Municipal Sustainability Group, and others. Collaboration with these groups help us stay aware with environmental regulations in the region and best practices, and to work collaboratively with other municipalities. Within the environmental master plan, it was recommended that 1 full-time position be hired prior to Q1 2023 to support the environmental lead with EMP implementation. This supporting position has not been approved to date, and as a result, some EMP goals, actions, and projected timelines have been impacted, as having another staff member was assumed to meet the goals listed in the EMP. Current resourcing limitations will result in some action items and completion dates being reforecasted. There is a list in the report of some of the items that may be impacted due to current resourcing limitations. Just to name a couple of these items, the full list is in the report. So some could be limited support for the urban forest management strategy initiatives, such as more tree planting, reduction to or discontinuation of the school environmental education program, reduction in support of continuation and expansion of the environmental monitoring and measurement framework, and reduction in ability to support and fully participate in regional groups. That essentially summarizes this report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councillor Penrod, do you have a question?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for pulling this item off the consent agenda. Always happy to chat with Ms. Turner about her work, so thank you for the exhaustive report in the report. The first piece I wanted to ask about is in the report. The first piece I wanted to ask about is the extended producer responsibility program that's being rolled out, well, is now active in Alberta. My understanding in the past is that we've kind of taken a bit of a wait and see approach as Beaumont with respect to developing our own version of an eco-station, for lack of a better word. So I hear periodic requests from residents for why do I got to drive to Edmonton or Leduc or the dump in order to dispose of some of my recyclables in a responsible way, right? And the answer I've gotten back is that we're waiting to see, because the responsibility for some of the end life disposal of these items is changing from consumers to the producers. Just wondering if you can speak to, now that that program is up and running for close to a year, if we're, how we would anticipate or our plans as a city to make provision for those kind of collection areas.
Right. So in terms of the battery recycling, so it did help with that system, because now we do have collection boxes at various locations throughout the city, and so that was a result of EPR. They facilitated that. So that is disposal of one item that they don't have to go to the eco-station for. In terms of other items, we do continue to have the annual waste roundup, but that's only once a year. With the new regulation, I don't believe we require, or it's required for us to have an eco-station based on the population in this area. So there is one in Leduc, and based on its location on the regulation, it is supposed to facilitate the population around it. So I don't believe it's required for us to have one built. That being said, I can see how it would be a benefit to the city. Yeah, so I don't know how that will change in the future, but as of now, I don't know of any specific changes in regards to having a depot here.
Yeah, thank you. It would occur to me that one of the, yeah, please, if Mr. Lewicki would like to provide more detail.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, I would still say that this is still an evolving situation. Currently we collect the waste and they reimburse us for the recycling materials. I think as time goes on and we see how these things work, there might be an evolution of what that looks like. But I'd still say, even though it's been a year or I'm not even sure what the exact time is, I'd still say it's early stages of this. This is a very new type of scenario that we're trying to move into. So I would say that there's still opportunities to look at different considerations and so on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just two more questions, maybe, Mayor, if I might.
Sure, yeah. And then we'll go to
one thing I wanted to ask about is the report makes clear that the city has received a significant grant. It's actually highlighted on the screen there, $200,000 to support tree planting projects. This is a granular question coming straight from residents. Why focus on new trees in the parks identified and maybe you could even speak to why those parks were identified, as opposed to replacing boulevard trees, which were significantly behind according to our urban forestry management strategy.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So this particular grant was only for certain types of tree planting, so it couldn't be applied to boulevard tree planting. I do think it would be great to replace those boulevard trees. I think currently it's an issue of budgets and resources. But yeah, this grant specifically could only go to a certain type of tree planting in parks and open areas.
Thank you. So it does impact our plan and our strategy for urban forestry, just doesn't scratch that particular itch. So we're happy to receive the grant, but got to come at the boulevard trees in another way.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And you've already alluded to this. I think you mentioned, well, I've heard through regional boards just how appreciative other municipalities have been of our educational program, kind of teaching in schools and raising awareness that way, that it's kind of a program that other municipalities see as something to be emulated. So thank you again for driving that work. But your report shows that that's potentially under threat. And another item that you mentioned is potentially under threat to continue to be able to deliver based on our current staffing level. So just if you could speak to which goals and actions are impacted by our decision to date, both on the administrative side and council side, not to fund that supportive position that's mentioned in the report.
Yeah, so currently action items and efforts are based on compliance requirements, of course. Like we need to first do what's required under regulations, and then by help to the community, essentially, like what's demand or what's requested by the community, what's of the benefit to the community. So I appreciate you mentioning that the school education program is appreciated. I do think it is a great program. However, with other multiple items going on, there's always a juggling act. And so that one, there is some consideration in not continuing it just based on current resourcing. Yeah, there are, multiple things to do, and without an additional full-time member of the environment team, I am the only full-time member of the environment team. So it's not possible to do all items that we would hope to in the EMP. So that is one that's under consideration for discontinuation.
Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Councillor Colesmith?
Thank you. I won't go back to that. And again, granular. And where I'm coming with this, I've seen tree planting in other municipalities where they've planted a whole bunch of trees in the park, which is great, except they were maybe 6 inches tall and littered about, and they stopped mowing to keep the moisture around the trees. And I saw this, and I'm just hoping this isn't that.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's that. Yeah, no, there'll be larger sized trees. The contractor, there was an RFP put out and bids for application, and there's a component of the application for maintenance of these trees and watering. So yeah, they're not just going to be planted and left. There is a maintenance program plan to ensure they do well.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to say, so just for clarification with the $200,000 grant, is that just for the trees, just for the materials? That can be used only for that? Is that
so? It's actually to hire the contractors as well to plant them. So they would be doing the planting, and then they would buy them from the nursery. They would transport them from the nursery. They would plant them, and they would also conduct the watering and fertilizing and any necessary maintenance on them for the first 2 years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, because I thought you said that this project would be at jeopardy if there wasn't an extra person.
Yeah, so the grant and this particular project of planting in these 3 parks would not be under jeopardy. That's already planned, that's going ahead. It's just additional planting and additional goals in the urban forest management strategy.
Okay.
Yeah, those are difficult to implement without adequate resources.
Thank you for clarifying that. The other question I have is in regards to the urban agricultural plan. I see that there was some work done there, and I'm just curious, what came out of that in terms of a framework to support the growth of urban agriculture in Beaumont? what actually came out of that in terms of manifestation in Beaumont? Are there urban agriculture happening, projects happening, or residents?
Yeah, that's a good
being
question.
supported?
That's actually a project managed by Planning and Development. So I don't know if, like, it is listed on the environmental master plan as an action item. However, it's actually in the Planning and Development group's.
Okay, I'd be curious, and maybe that would be something I can get from planning and development in terms of what is the outflow of that in terms of support, if there's actually people who have implemented things. I know that there's quite a lot of interest in this area for sure. Okay, I'm going to.
Just so I get this right, can you please repeat the question?
Sure, I was specifically asking about the urban agriculture plan. It says in the report that the UAP outlines a framework to support the growth of urban agriculture in Beaumont. I wanted to know what was the outflow of this? Are there residents who are implementing this plan? What is the support that's happening? Okay, thank you. Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question also now for planting the new trees. Is this intended to be a diverse selection of trees, or are we just getting sort of one all spruce? Or is it meant to be that sort of biodiversity and sort of trying to mimic what's happening naturally in forests?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, there's meant to be a diversity. I believe there's supposed to be at least 5 different species. It's supposed to reflect our GDS, the species outlined in there that are appropriate for our conditions here. So yeah, there is a biodiversity requirement.
So like native plants to the area as well, and biodiverse, or just?
So anything that's listed in our, we accept as a city in general. So yeah, some are native, some are not necessarily native, but they are adapted to our climate and do well here. So it's a bit of mix of both.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Awesome, thank you. Great questions. No more questions for you. We can move on to the next question.
May we actually have a motion for this item that I'll be putting up on the screen?
Okay.
Actually, there's 2 motions.
Okay.
So if Councillor Penrod wants to go ahead.
Sure, thanks. And just for a little background, so I had prepared these motions for our normal notice of motion process, but just on the advice of the clerk, we've moved them up to seem to fit in the conversation that we're already having here today. So, and just for clarity, Madam Clerk, am I moving this or giving notice that it will be moving?
No, you're moving the motion and it'll be debated this evening.
Thank you. So I'll try to keep it brief. I move that a council-directed initiative report providing the costs to fund 1 additional FTE to support implementation of the environmental master plan be included in the 2027 budget deliberations. So again, as we move into debate on this front, this is not encouraging us to make a decision on that funding. We're out of budget cycle right now. This is just me trying to ensure that we give fair consideration to that position that is that we're several years behind on according to the plan that's in place when it comes time to consider our 2027 budget piece. I think in my brief experience, it has been presented to us sometimes and other times not, because administration has their whole process where we end up, as you all know, leaving plenty of worthy things under the cutoff just because we need more of everything yesterday. So this is just my intention to get a brief report brought forward to the budget process for 2027 so we could have proper debate around that issue at that time. Thank you.
Councillor Natelabas?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess just a quick question for you, Ms. Winter. Just looking for clarity on the process for this, just how come it came up as a motion as opposed to notice a motion?
Thank you. So a notice of motion for a councillor to bring forward is something that's not on the agenda, that goes outside of the work of administration, but because this item was on the agenda, a councillor can make a motion to that. We did have it received for information, but again, that is just a motion that any councillor can change.
Perfect, thank you.
Any questions, Councillor Van Newkirk?
Yeah, thank you. Wasn't prepared to speak to this tonight, but certainly can. Councillor Penrod, I respect the process that we're going through here, and I'll support that process. But what I will say is, knowing what I know right now, being not far removed from a budget discussion, this one wouldn't be near close to the line for me. But I will support the request for information and bringing that forward for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to that? Yeah, I feel the same. I think it's no harm in getting the information, but I think in terms of priority, I'm not sure. I would need to know a lot more information in terms of the need in that regard, what problem we're solving. Councillor Hyde, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just quickly, Mayor. Just wondering how much capacity this would take up as far as bringing this initiative forward, doing the work to bring this forward. Is this something that we want to take a lot of time on administration side of it? Where are we at with that? I guess that's what I would ask, Ms. Winters.
Councillor, Mr. Lowy.
Through the mayor, with this, I think that when we say council-directed initiative report, I think it's pretty easy for us to get the cost for that. We've done it multiple years. So I think it's not that much work to just give a cost for it. I'm not sure what's the intention behind that. Maybe Ms. Winter could.
I can actually speak to that. So this is actually replacing the one-pagers that we previously, instead of saying that administration provide a one-pager report in the budget, we've now changed that to council directed, just to keep it separate from council administration and what's being brought forward in the upcoming budget.
Okay, yeah, I just don't want to bog down administration at all, and something that we may not bring forward later on. That's my intention with this.
No, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I probably should have known that. So in that sense, essentially, we have this information. Obviously, it'll need to be updated, but I don't see that taking too much time. We can definitely provide it as a supplement to the 2027 budget. Thank you.
All right, see no more questions. Did you want to close?
Yeah, just in the interest of brevity, we'll just go straight to the vote. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, we'll go to the vote. So just to be clear, we are, this is a directive for a report providing the costs. So we will go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Councillor Penrod?
So same context as already described, and glad to hear some interest on our urban forest management and especially boulevard trees. So with that, I'd like to move that a council-directed initiative report providing the costs associated with implementing the urban forestry management strategy as contemplated in the environmental master plan be included in the 2027 budget deliberations.
Any discussion on this? Okay, we'll go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Great. Okay, we'll move on here. And depending on how long this takes, we may take a break after this.
So this report is on the Partners for Climate at the council request for a report. At the council request for a report. The Partners for Climate Protection Program is a program designed to support municipalities in Canada to reduce emissions and take action on climate change. The program is managed by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and Local Governments for Sustainability. The program receives funding from FCN's Green Municipal Fund and ICLEI Canada to operate. So the City of Beaumont joined the PCP program in March of 2015 by signing a council resolution. However, the city did not actively work to meet the program milestones after that time. The 2021 Environmental Master Plan included a goal to re-engage in the PCP program and work to complete the program requirements. However, the city has not re-engaged in the program to date due to a number of reasons, including resourcing constraints, as an additional environmental team member has not been approved to date, existence of a regional initiative with a similar focus to the goals listed in the PCP program. So that was through the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, which initiated in 2022 until 2024 when the EMRB disbanded. And then other initiatives with similar goals have been undertaken by the city, funded through grants, such as the Municipal Energy Management Program, which was mentioned in my previous report, and the Clean Energy Improvement Program. So in terms of a Partners in Climate Protection Program overview, it involves a 5-step milestone framework. Joining the PCP program is voluntary, and by joining, there's no requirement to move through the steps or to complete any specific tasks or to complete reporting, although it is encouraged. The 5 milestones of the PCP program include create a baseline emissions inventory and forecast, set emission reduction targets, develop a local climate action plan, implement the local action plan, and monitor progress and report on results. The City of Beaumont has not completed any of the PCP program milestones at this time, although the city has completed some work that would fit into the PCP program milestones, such as emissions accounting for the city-owned facilities, energy efficiency upgrades, and the launch of SEEP, which supports residents to make energy efficiency retrofits to their homes, which leads to emission reductions. Municipalities can create and implement emissions accounting, emission reduction targets, and a local climate action plan without being part of the PCP. However, being a program member gives municipalities access to additional support and resources. There are no current provincial requirements, mandates, or expectations regarding greenhouse gas emissions accounting, emission reduction targets, or a municipal climate action plan, which are the main aspects of the PCP program. If the city withdrew from the program, it would not affect the ability of the city to independently meet any provincial standards or requirements. Municipalities that are members of the program can choose to withdraw from the program at any time. There is a summary of related provincial and federal plans in the report. In summary, they do not require emission reduction or climate plans. However, there are strategies outlined to meet emission reductions, and municipalities are encouraged to partake. In terms of financial analysis, the city has not actively engaged in the PCP program since it joined in 2015. Thus, no resource hours or costs associated with participating in the program have been realized to date. The city has not received any grants, funding, or cost-sharing benefits as a direct result of joining the program. Participating in the program could help with obtaining funding opportunities related to emissions reduction and climate change action, as some of the milestone steps may provide information needed for grants. However, being a part of the PCP program does not have any specific impact on receiving grants. There are grants offered by some agencies, such as FCM and MCCAC, that require information that are part of the milestone steps. Risk analysis. Remaining in the PCP program presents no additional risk for the city. If the city remains in the PCP program, there are no commitments or requirements to progress through the milestones at any specific time. If the city withdraws from the PCP program, there could be reputational risks, as it is uncommon for municipalities to withdraw from the program, and it may signal a disinterest in climate change and emission reduction action. Over 500 Canadian municipalities are currently members of this program, and there is awareness of the program's membership among the member municipalities and external organizations, including organizations which provide support and grant funding to municipalities. With recent wildfire smoke causing air quality concerns and some dry summers that lead to water use restrictions in the city, and the connection of these types of conditions to climate change, appearing publicly disconnected to climate action could be concerning to some residents. In addition, withdrawing from this program may suggest to the public that the city does not support efforts on reducing emissions and the resulting efficiencies and cost savings. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Ms. Turner. Thank you for the administration for putting that. I was the one who asked for that report, so I appreciate it. I appreciate the overview. It's very helpful to see both the history. I want to ensure I'm understanding it correctly. They'll confirm. You already said that the city joined the program in 2015 and has not completed any of the milestones to date, and that there's no requirement for us to do so, correct?
Correct.
There's no penalties or anything like that?
Correct.
And everything this program, what I heard you say, that everything that this program is designed to support, including emissions tracking, reduction targets, planning, can be completed by the city independently, and in fact are being completed by the city independently. Is that correct?
Correct. Some of the aspects, like some of the items, are being conducted independently, but yes, all of them could be conducted independently.
Okay. And then I think you already mentioned that there was no direct funding received by being in the program, and the membership didn't, you don't have to be a member to access certain funding. It's not a prerequisite.
Correct.
Correct, yeah. And the other thing that I saw in the report that was interesting was that the report notes that you currently don't have the staffing capacity to advance the work. That it would, although it's not costing us money to be a part of the program, that it does cost us money to actually execute on some of the things. So you need to have an external consultant or additional resources. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So then you talked about the risks, and this was interesting to me because there's no financial, no legislative or operational risk to withdrawing, but the primary risk identified is reputational, based on how we might be perceived by other municipalities or our community. And I'm correct in that, right?
Yeah.
Reputational. That's right. So based on what I've seen in this, I think that this is an opportunity for us to. So I'll tell you what went through my mind when I read this, because I was happy that our city was actually doing the things that they needed to do in terms of the environmental and all the different tasks, that we were able to do that on our own. But the thing that concerned me was that we made a decision, and this is no fault to previous councils, but it just made me aware of how important it is for us to make sure the decisions we make that we're willing to follow through on and to execute on, and so from a good governance position, I realized this is not, in my opinion, to stay in this program, a good governance decision, but it's more of a excuse the words, virtue signaling in terms of reputational. And so I would like to, and I talked to Madam Clerk about this as well, and I was going to put in a notice of motion, and she recommended going straight to a motion. But I see this as a broader conversation for us as council to have, not just this program specifically, but about how we approach participation in external programs where there is no actual follow-through on that, but that our decisions are rooted in good governance. I mean, 10 years is a long time. And so for me, I see this as a way to really have a real reality check, and for me personally, as a member of council as well. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Any other councillors want to ask on that report, or any comments or discussion? Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo some of the mayor's comments there, that if council's going to get behind something, they should get behind it, obviously. And 10 years is a long time to sit around and do nothing for something that you maybe thought was going to be something. It's almost hypocritical to me to have a plan that you're not willing to execute. So it's a really tough one for me to even look at this. I mean, yes, you could say, well, we haven't put a lot of money into it, but we just spent 15 minutes talking about it. So there is something that's put into it because there's thought and effort and all those type of things, and those things all are part and parcel of being a councillor and also being from admin's point. So absolutely, I agree with you. I don't see the need to continue with a program that we have no intention of going ahead with, simply because we want to look good to the public. I'm sorry, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to actually put action into motion. So, I think if we're doing things really well on the admin side of it ourselves, and we're doing things the right way, then there should be no issue with that at all. That's just my opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question along the same lines. What kind of work, Ms. Turner, are we able to do if we're not following guidelines from, for example, FCM? What are you able to sort of bring to the table on your own as an environmental lead for the city of Beaumont?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, a benefit of this program is the support that can be offered through the program in terms of resources, guiding efforts. Currently, we are part of the Municipal Energy Management Program offered by the MCCAC. And so that is a different program that we chose to enter into because there's grant funding associated with it. So that was part of the reason that one was chosen. And they do provide some guidance and grant funding in terms of emissions accounting for city facilities. So it's not as wide in scope as this program in terms of emission accounting for this program would be more citywide. The MEM program is just for city buildings, but it is a start. So that's why we started on that one. So that one we are able to do with some guidance and help through the MCCAC, and that's what we are currently working on.
Okay, thank you. I think that kind of answers my question, because I do wonder, in the same line of questioning as what the mayor and Councillor Hyde mentioned, how much of our focus.
Mayor, if I may, if we could put the motion on the floor, it sounds like council's kind of getting into a bit of debate on this one with your comments earlier. So if we could just I can put the motion up on the screen.
Yeah, I did ask for her to, Madam Clerk, to provide a notice of motion. She recommends that administration prepare and submit a formal written notice to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and ICLEI local governments for sustainability, advising of the municipalities' withdrawal from the climate protection program. I will just speak to that for the reasons that I mentioned, that we've been a part of a program for over a decade without completing milestones. There's no requirement to participate or progress. We can achieve the same outcomes independently and have been. To actually follow through on some of the things, we would have to hire a consultant, which would be more, expense. There's no direct financial legislative impact tied to membership. And the other thing is, again, as I said, I am not interested in being a part of a program just for virtue signaling. I think if we can achieve the same results with resources that we have or other programs, like you mentioned, other associations. And I just want to say this, that by withdrawing, we are not saying that we're not stepping away from environmental responsibility. We're actually stepping toward a more focused, accountable, and locally driven action that's based on our community needs. For me, it's like, what problem is it solving? I don't see any problem that it's solving. And so I think from a good governance perspective that it's it's in our best interest and as councillors to withdraw. So I'm open for discussion or debate. Councillor Van Newkirk and then Councillor Penrod.
Yeah, first a question for administration. Have you had a look to make sure this is the proper process to follow to remove from this?
Yes.
Yes, and it is?
Yeah, in terms of, there's a brief summary in the report, but my understanding is a motion would have to be passed by council to withdraw, and then we would have to send a formal notice to the organization to withdraw.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to triple check that just to make sure. Yeah, and I'll make a couple comments, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, much similar to what you said. I actually see this as an opportunity, and I think the opportunity could be to be more focused on community environmental issues, and maybe to put some of the resources towards programs that might emerge in the future that we aren't even aware of yet, that will provide some greater impact, next day-ish on some of these environmental issues that we have. We still have the environmental master plan. We just moved a couple of motions around that. It's not like we don't have some environmental direction in the community, so I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penrod?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. In the spirit of a robust debate, I'll speak in opposition to the motion. Though I guess I'll start by saying I'm happy to hear that this motion doesn't come forward in the spirit of stepping away from environmental responsibility and stewardship. Glad to hear that. That squares with other conversations we've had, both around this table and outside this room. So I am happy to hear that. And I just want to I do thank Councillor Van Newkirk for bringing up that we've just moved a couple motions on this front, but we had also observed in the midst of that just bringing those forward to budget conversations doesn't necessarily get them funded. And so I want us to hold in tension that on the one hand, we are saying here, if we exit this program, that's not stepping away from environmental stewardship. We're going to have to find a way to put our money where our mouth is in a program that we deem to be more effective, whether that's local or getting support. So part of the reason that I would speak against this is that the report in front of us is clear, the report that generated this motion, that there is no risk to staying in this. We've literally been in it since 2015, and there's been no cost because all of the costs, all of the initiatives are voluntary. However, we have done some work to get in line on that front, and should we choose to avail ourselves of those supports that are available through this program, we could do that more streamlined rather than having to get out of line and then get back into line. I do understand that there are organizations such as KICLI who are advancing the argument that this program is part of a global initiative that constrains municipalities and takes away municipalities' local options. I fundamentally disagree with that. I think this is the manifestation of something like the Federation of Canadian Municipalities that exists to lift up its membership and providing opportunities for us to work together and find cost savings by pooling our resources in order to support municipalities that should wish to go in that direction, and not every municipality does in the end go in that direction. So I think some of the arguments advanced by the KICLIs of the world are fundamentally kind of obfuscation and not made always in the best of faith. I think what we see in larger climate debates is sometimes the best argument against is not to argue against the environment, but rather to state the case in a way that just kind of kicks the can down the road. And I've already heard a couple people already speak against that kind of attitude today that sort of advances saying we're for something but not actually doing anything about it. So our province has been, I'll just close by saying, our province is on the record, our premier's on the record that Alberta wants to do better environmentally and knows that that's part of our global role, and that we've got realistic goals for 2050. I think exiting a program like this today sends the wrong message that we may not be prepared to actively pursue those goals today, but I think exiting this program today sends the wrong message and shows that we're actually stepping away from it potentially. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Penrod. Councillor Colesmith?
Thank you, Mayor. So having read through the report, it seems to me this is one plan or one path that you could follow. It's not necessarily the only way or the universally adopted one right way. And considering we've taken steps, and completed initiatives, signaling that we are in favor of supporting the environment and treating that with respect. And during that whole 10 years, haven't progressed meaningfully through this program. I'd struggle to find a reason to stay in it other than it just doesn't cost anything. Like it just seems like that club membership that you're never using, even though you're doing everything outside of it. So I think I'm in support of this.
Thank you, Councillor Murray.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think that I'm supportive of this motion. And one question that I do have is that, okay, perhaps maybe we haven't spent any money. There's some things that we haven't fulfilled that would have been part of the, recommendations with a couple of these groups. But have we gained anything by being members? And it doesn't sound like, did we receive any type of grant, in anything like that we can tangibly say?
Right. So we haven't received any grant as a direct result of being part of this program. I joined Beaumont in 2021, so I cannot speak to what happened between 2015 and 2021, except some items that are saved in files and discussing with people. I think this program, should we be at a spot where we can continue in it, there would be guidance available, and that would be the benefit. As I mentioned, we're working through emissions accounting without the help of this program because we have another program. However, when we complete that, it's possible there would be the ability to more fully engage in this program, and we could benefit from the resources at that point. But it is correct that currently we are progressing with emissions accounting without this program. So yeah, I am not aware currently of any direct benefit. However, I can see a benefit in the future should we be able to. And since there's no risk in remaining in the program, it's possible we could benefit from in the future. But yes, my understanding to date is no direct grants associated with it at this point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We're going to just have two more, and then we'll go to a vote. Councillor Natellenbos?
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. Should we wake up tomorrow morning and this is approved and we have canceling remorse, is there an option to reapply if that were to be the route that we follow or would want to follow?
I believe so. I can't confirm with 100% certainty, but I don't see why not. I don't see why they would reject an application, even if we previously withdrew.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Van Nieuwkerk?
Yeah, thank you. Just want to state too, for closure maybe on Councillor Murray's question. So if this is FCM, this is a program through them. If this passes, we'd give notice we're not part of it. Individual programs through FCM that has been successful in Beaumont include SEEP, $200,000 of tree funding, $80,000 energy audit that we did. So those are all individual FCM programs that Beaumont has applied to and been successful on. And I just really wanted to highlight that as well. So.
Thank you. Yes, I did want to make that distinction as well. It's like FCM is a great program, a great organization. That's not, it's just, and I'll just speak to the closing since there's no more comments or discussions. But again, I just want to reiterate, this is not, withdrawing from the PCP is not a step away from environmental responsibility. We are actually putting in practice a good governance. To me, it's like probably like Councillor Goldsmith said, having a membership that you don't use. To me, it doesn't solve a problem, so why have it for the sake of virtue signaling and reputational? I'm not interested in that. I think if we're going to be a part of an organization, just like we did with Edmonton Global, if we don't see the benefit, it just becomes this thing that's hanging around. So let's just clarify and be accountable for our decisions, and that's the reason for this motion. I feel like this is part of what I want to achieve today, so I hope you would support me in this motion. So we're going to go to a vote. And that passed 6-1, and with one opposed, Councillor Penrod. Thank you, everyone, for that discussion. How are we doing? Do we need another break, or do we need a bio break? We're good to go. Soldier on here. All right. Well, we're going to move on here to 7.4. I think the rest is going to go fairly quickly here. 7.4, motion following notice, Councillor Netelenbos. Just waiting for a motion for you, Madam Clerk, for, oh, sorry, it's up. Small print, a lot of words. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. I would like 6, administration bring forward an artificial intelligence use council policy that ensures that secure, ethical, and compliant use of artificial intelligence technologies within the organization, including but not limited to guiding principles for AI use, risk management, privacy, and data governance considerations, alignment with applicable legislation, industry best practices, and municipal policies, and where exceptions may be acceptable. And that until a council policy is adopted, administration provide interim guidance and risk mitigation direction to staff regarding the responsible use of artificial intelligence tools with a focus on privacy, security, and legislative compliance. And that administration evaluate an enterprise-level AI solution and include as part of the 2027 budget process a recommendation for implementation, including risk assessment and implementation options and timeframes. That's it.
Fantastic. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you to Councillor Netelenbos for bringing this forward. Lots of words, but great intent and easy to support, so thank you. I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Any other councillors want to speak or questions? Councillor Goldsmith?
Thank you. I am supportive of this, but I do have a question about the enterprise level AI solution, considering the breadth of different job functions that happen within the city. Is there just one, maybe it's things for Word, it's Copilot versus other aspects, maybe it's another option, are we limiting it to just one, or is maybe solutions?
The intent of the enterprise solution is the higher level of security that it provides, so that potentially damaging information that's put into whatever AI system isn't disclosed to the general public or made available to the general public. So the intent of that is it doesn't matter what system it is, just making sure it's enterprise level so that we're appropriately protected.
Okay, so we're not saying just one tool, but
correct.
Okay, I'm okay with it. Thanks.
Good question. Any other discussion? Councillor Penrod?
Yeah, I'll just join the bus, Mayor. Thanks. This looks like a motion that has a lot of thought behind it, a lot of research, and a lot of work with admin to massage it. And I appreciate all that work that's gone on in the background, and happy to support this motion.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. I think it's like we're in the world where we need to embrace AI and learn everything we need to, but also know the risks and protect ourselves from things that we may not even know right now coming down the pipe. So thank you for bringing this forth. I'll definitely be supporting it. Since there's no other questions, you want to close?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm fine. I think it describes itself, so thank you.
You sure you don't have any more words? No. Okay, let's go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Well done. All right, we're going to move on now to 7.5. Mr. Bohachuk? Mr. Bohachuk? Did I do that right? Oh, good.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight we start part of a four-legged journey about taxes through the year. Today is steps 1 and 2 as we talk about the property tax relief, and then we'll talk about the penalty bylaw in the next item. Later on in April, we'll do the tax rate setting, the tax rate bylaw approval in order to collect taxes for the year. And then in July, we're planning on coming back with a update on the tax policy. You may be asking, why is it in 4 stages and why are we doing different things at different times? We need to do, so this one is calendar agnostic. It really is just an update of when tax relief comes in. It's probably better to get it before taxes go out and we start to see reasons why people might be seeking relief. We need to do the tax rate penalty bylaw in our tax rates for the year, right? So we don't set the tax rates and then be like, oh, it's the middle of the penalty time frame when you would normally be collecting, that we're going to change it and do things like that. So that's why we're doing these 2 pieces now. And then when we're doing tax policy, that has to be set between tax rate approval, the tax rate bylaw, and your budget. So there's a very small window where you can do changes to the tax policy itself. Because if we want to talk about mill rate changes and things like that, that has to be before we decide how much we're spending in the future year, but after we've already established tax payments for the current year. So just to explain a little bit of why the nuances of you'll see through the year as we do this. So as I mentioned, this is the property tax relief policy. It focuses largely on the collection or return of collection of property taxes. The policy purpose is to provide guidance to council in exercising its MGA legislative discretion regarding property tax relief, and also to property owners who may be applying to council for property tax relief. The policy statement, so basically in a nutshell, council can reduce taxes or tax arrears. It can be for different classes of property or business, can be different classes of each, if council considers it equitable. And this is really one of the foundation pieces of the policy. Any reduction to taxes or forgiveness must be made up by everybody else. It just doesn't disappear. It has to be, so you're shifting the burden from one user or a small group of users, whatever the relief is, and putting it on to everybody else. So that's the equitability piece that's really important. Oh, you're moving the screen on me. Okay, I'll do this. Council is prohibited from delegating this ability to administration. As I said, any reductions must be made up by other property owners. And then, so the policy frames a bunch of the guidelines. So assessment and taxation occurs annually. There's a municipal assessor that has legislative authority. They can fix errors, omissions, misdirections, or misdescriptions, probably not misdirections. Property owners have an obligation to promptly review and contact the assessor for any complaints, and then it goes through the assessment review board. In all tax relief applications, council must consider the amount and relief sought, and must consider the rights of all the other property owners, right? So that's because if you were going to take it off one, it goes to everybody else. Currently, we have 3 reasons why tax relief could occur. So there's an error in fact. So there's an error, clerical error made either by the assessor or administration in the calculation, or the bills go out or something like that, and there's an error, and there's penalties or something that occurs because of that. That would be something that could be, the policy would say, yes, that's a valid reason. There's if tax exemptions for an organization. So there's a charitable organization is building a new facility. They could get tax exempt status on the land and the construction piece before it's actually a fully functioning non-for-profit. That would get the tax exempt status. So that would be an element that you could do, or on compassionate grounds. Okay, so if the resident has some undue circumstance, severe health issues, loss in the family, something like that, there could be grounds for that. For applications for property owners, so they must submit a request to city administration. We then prepare a report for council. The reports are presented during public council meetings. Property owners can attend the meeting and summarize the reason for what they're doing, and then council's decisions are final. Now, all that is a really nice way of saying administration doesn't think we should change a thing. The recommendation, between the policy purpose, the statements, the definitions, the MGA legislation, and all the council responsibilities are clear, relevant, and on point. We don't recommend making any changes. Exercising property tax relief for a resident does not eliminate the municipality's need for those tax dollars and instead transfers the burden to other taxpayers. The real element, I didn't write Pandora's box in here, but maybe I should have. If you add additional criteria for tax relief, you're inviting more volume, more submissions, which leads to additional council and administration effort to prepare, review, and rule. It creates a whole bunch more significant uncertainty within the residents, right? Confusion, are my taxes changing? The thing when I got my tax bill, but then I heard that Joe got a deferral. Does that mean I'm getting more taxes now? It just kind of, it puts, taxes are sensitive and sticky enough already when they're as, I'm gonna use air quotes, clear as they are at this moment. And so it would really severely impact and erode the comfortability and understandability, again, understandability for residents, and it erodes the principle of tax equity, right, between residents if we're just forgiving some and stuff like that. So strong recommendation to not tinker or add, but it is council's prerogative. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. I have one quick question, then I'm going to go over to Councillor Penrod there. So in the event, for example, someone wants for tax exemption because something's under construction, how does that actually work out? Just over the next year, disperse that amount that was exempt? Like, can you give us a little bit of insight into that?
So a lot of the mechanics depend on what time of year the event is coming, right? So if it's in advance of the tax rate bylaw that's coming, for example, we had somebody come forward in March before April, we would adjust the assessment base to remove that assessment value from the revenue requirement that we require, and then that would increase everybody's taxes calculation just a little tiny bit. If it's after that, because we still have a revenue requirement to collect, but now we're going to be a little bit short. So this is where the stability and contingency reserve would come into play, and then we would have to have a replenishment strategy that's built into the following year's budget that recovers it from everybody else. Again, essentially transferring the burden to everybody else for that reduction. So those are really the two primary methods that you would do.
So here's the question now, do we get the lower taxes when the person now has built their building? Sorry.
So that building construction, just to be clear, is only for organizations that are already tax exempt. It's just for
okay, so
it's only for nonprofits that already have a tax exempt status that are maybe building something that land and construction would be taxable, but because it's a tax-free organization, you can choose to make those taxes go away, and that's a fair reason to do that.
Okay.
Not just anybody who's building something gets free taxes. That's not how that works.
Thought I would ask. Maybe that's something you need to put in the, it's actually.
It's clear. It says it in the bullet that's for tax exempt.
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Not to belabor the point. Thank you. Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Mr. Bohacek, and to administration that's worked on this. I think the last time this subject matter was before us, I expressed some frustration, and I just want to take the opportunity to say that reading through this today, I read it with some different eyes. Along the way of a couple years of experience on council, I've had the opportunity to hear debate and receive some different information, and this is an area where my mind has changed somewhat, not completely. So I will be a stickler and say I don't think it needs zero changes, but I'll maybe just ask Madam Clerk, process-wise, what's recommended from administration is that this bylaw receive 3 readings tonight. Is that correct?
So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So this is just a tax relief policy, which is not to be
pardon me,
confused
yeah.
with the penalty
Correct.
bylaw, which has 3 readings coming up next.
Okay, thank you. So I'm glad I said that. So that's, so if I had a minor amendment, potentially even a friendly amendment to this policy, would now be the time to suggest it? Okay, so before I do that, let me, if I could just say, not to belabor this too far, but part of what's changed my mind somewhat on this is understanding that there is a city process. If a property owner, through whatever circumstances, gets sideways in this process, a property owner, therefore taxpayer, can come forward to the city and enter into an agreement to kind of make payments towards what they're owing. Is that true?
I believe, yes, that would be an option. If that doesn't happen very often, and haven't had that personally experienced with me, but I think that we would come to an arrangement. I'm sure if someone was in a payment plan to recover, yes.
It's been my understanding so far, and I have still lots to learn on this front, that the administration is willing and able to work with people. Not that you don't have to pay your taxes or you don't have to pay them on time, but that in very rare circumstances, people can get sideways, and that the best thing I think we'd like to encourage people to do is be proactive about that and reach out to administration and try to make arrangements. So is there an official program that exists? Maybe CEO Schwartz could answer that better, or Ms. Morrison. And just if so, how do we communicate that to people, and where can people access that program if it exists?
Through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, administration truly does everything they can to work with residents, understanding that situations do arise, and our intent, of course, is to collect all the money. That's sort of the bottom line.
No getting out of that part.
No getting out of that part. So we do a lot of conversation with residents, and we just encourage folks to please call in if they know they're having some challenges, and we will do everything to work with folks.
Again, so sorry, just to clarify, Councillor, I'm not sure if you're talking about the tax penalty piece and the forgiveness in that piece, or is it about relieving taxes? That's just trying to get clarity on.
I guess what I'm saying is I've understood in the past that there is or could be a mechanism for a resident who's sideways in the process to sit down with administration and make a plan in order to get on the right side of the ledger again in a way that makes sense without incurring too many additional penalties, if that makes sense.
But that I think
Not
is
waiving.
more relevant to
So
the
that's the
next
next one.
item, as opposed to this is just relief from taxes or forgiveness of taxes is the only what this policy is speaking to, not any of the process or mechanics around the
Exemption.
collection or making deals or not deals, making arrangements, payment plans, things like that in order to get on the right side of the ledger. I just wanted to clarify if your motion is, or pending motion is specifically just tax relief.
The motion itself has little to do with that, so
Okay.
I'll leave that piece there. That's been my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong, and happy to be corrected if I am. That's part of what's started to turn my thinking around on this subject a little bit. However, in the policy, and thanks for straightening me out, what's before us as recommended from administration with respect to this council policy C50 is just that we vote to approve it. Before I vote, I wonder on page, in the PDF, it's 82 of 123. I'm not sure which page. So it'd be page 2 of the council report. There's one little word under application process. It says property owners seeking relief must make the request to city administration.
Yep.
Last word of the second line is may. I would suggest we change that to must. So it's my feeling that under the current circumstances, a resident who makes an appeal has no chance of having that be successful if they aren't here in person to speak to their case. Maybe there'd be good legal reasons why not to change that word, but unless that word is must, I just feel like we're setting people up for frustration. I'd rather just tell them no up front rather than saying, well, you can appeal and maybe, but the answer is eventually just no. That's been my limited experience, and that's where I've had frustration with this policy, is that I feel that at the end of the day, it sets people up for some false hope, and unless they're here, I don't think they have any chance of a successful appeal.
I'm going to bring it to CEO Schwartz.
Yeah, thank you very much, through the mayor. If we were to change that to must, we have no legal right to force people to come here. We could get a review. What I would suggest, though, is if that's a value for yourself or individual counselors, that if people don't show up, and I've seen you say that, and I think it's a very valid point, that's part of your decision making. Some of these property owners obviously don't live here, so how can they travel all this way? But I don't think that behooves you from saying, you know what, in my mind, if you don't make the effort to attend, you don't get my support.
All right, thank you. So Councillor Goldsmith?
Thank you. Does every application make it to council?
Through the mayor to Councillor Goldsmith, yes. So administration has no authority. We get the request, we write the report, bring it to council, all of them come to you.
100%, okay. That was really it, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Natalenbas?
Thank you. Just a quick question. Obviously, we referred to the two documents because they are different. One's the policy, one's the bylaw. But on the property tax relief policy, it does relate to the penalties as well, in terms of the circumstances where they may request penalty tax relief. Just wondering if that should be incorporated in the bylaw or just kept where it is in the policy.
So through the mayor to Councillor Natalenbas, so the policy literally just speaks to when it's applicable to cancel taxes or penalties, whatever the circumstances are that lead to council choosing to do that, which is different than how are the penalties and overages and things calculated and collected and calculated from that perspective. So I think, from my perspective, just keeping the policy clean about when is it acceptable, that policy defines what an acceptable reason for tax relief is the thing. And we can, if we have issues with the bylaw itself around rates or times or when that can happen, council always has the ability through the relief policy to say, you know what, due to compassionate grounds, they make a request, you know, we make the report, they come to you, you find that there's merit in making the reduction. That includes what their tax, could include some or all of what their taxes are, some and all of what their penalties may have accrued to be, if council deems it fair and worthy from that perspective. So I don't think that it's really, are the three reasons, and that's where we strongly would, administration recommend, those are the only three reasons that we would consider tax relief. Not, you know, I disagree with the level of service or things like that. Those aren't valid reasons to forgive taxes or relieve taxes. It's literally just what are the three reasons that council would warrant is a fair reason to remove them. So a property tax exempt company doing construction, okay, that would be a property tax exempt if it was built, so they should have the benefit through the whole time. Some sort of clerical error, whether on the assessor or administration in calculating the pieces, or compassionate grounds. Our position is there shouldn't be any other reason for forgiveness, and that's what really the policy is trying to outline, is the reasons why.
Okay, perfect. So I guess just another question in regards to that, and I know this aligns with the MGA, but the compassionate grounds, I just find it quite ambiguous in terms of how they define it here. It mentions extenuating circumstances, but then says such as a terminal illness. I'm just wondering if there's any way we can either keep it more ambiguous, as silly as it sounds, and just say compassionate grounds, as opposed to just saying terminal illness. And my reasoning behind that is, I would like for people to know when they are able to, and more so on the penalty side than the actual taxes, but when they are able to seek potentially some relief on compassionate grounds. Right now, by reading this, I know it just says such as terminal illness, but I would assume it's only terminal illness based on reading that. Is there any way to get a little more clarity around compassionate grounds or more examples in the policy?
Through the mayor to Councilor Natellenbos, I'd be hesitating to try to quantify or limit the amount of human experience that we would accept and not accept. Leaving it just literally, it's an undue, like compassionate grounds, what it does, I think terminal illness is just one example, right? There could be other, let's say you have a child that has a massive incident, and you can't work for months and months and months because you're taking care of that child. It's not a terminal illness. They might recover, and then the situation is different. But how do for me to quantify or specify every single type of thing that could be, I think the compassionate grounds is just the vagueness of it is allows council's interpretation of what you feel that would be appropriate from my perspective.
And I would agree. So can we go that route and remove terminal illness just so that it's not looked upon as that's the only option I have is terminal illness?
Sure. I think we would accept an amendment to the policy for that.
If we could go ahead and move the main motion, so then we can do an amending motion on that. I'll just put the main motion up on the screen here.
So I move that policy, that council policy C50, property tax relief policy as set out in attachment 1 of the March 24, 2026 report be approved.
Any discussion? We're going to go to a vote, and then we'll do an amendment, I think. Yeah, okay.
We actually will do the amending motion first, Mayor.
Oh, we will?
Then, because what it will do is it'll temporarily suspend the main motion while we deal with this motion on the floor. So I'm just writing what Councillor Natellenbos was wanting here, and then we'll put it up on the screen for a vote.
So we don't vote on this one?
Not yet. It's temporarily suspended because we're going to be putting an amending motion forward. I know it gets a little bit tricky, but I'm here to walk you through it.
Can we continue to have discussion, or is this about the amendment, or is this about the policy? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to speak briefly to Phil's point, or Councillor Penrod's point. On the may, you're correct. I think that the may kind of sounds kind of loose. I would say I'd rather put in, it is in the property owner's best interest, as opposed to may. I think that's stronger language than may. And it actually motivates, as opposed to saying, well, you could come or not, right? Yeah. I'm just saying it is in the property owner's best interest.
Yeah, I'd be open to hearing what admin has to say on that front. The other thing that I'm thinking, Mayor, is a possibility of another amendment. If we don't have legal standing to require that someone attends in person, I wonder if we could say that someone must attend, whether it's the landowner or someone who represents them. Yeah. I think that would be a more legally sound territory, but I'm not a legal expert, so I'd ask that question.
Yeah, I think that when the CEO was speaking, Mayor, he was saying that we don't really have a legal way of doing that. So that strong a language may not be. I'm just going back to CEO Schwartz, but.
Yeah, the recommendation I would make is let us go and get a legal opinion and bring this back. I don't think we're going to be able to solve it. My assumption is that we wouldn't have that. But we will test the language that you suggested and the must that Councillor Penrod suggested. That would be my suggestion going forward here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable to look into that, because I agree there has to be something there.
Might I suggest if, depending on what other councillors have to speak, that given with what Councillor Natalenbos wants to and a potential of a legal review, and LLS does agree with that, we could maybe refer it back to administration for further work, and then Councillor Natalenbos, we could add in striking out those words in that section 4.3.3, so when it comes back to council, we would have that changed, if that works.
Yeah, I think that's good. So how do we proceed right now?
So I just, so what we'll do is we'll just, if we have consensus of council, we'll withdraw the first motion, and then I'm just going to do a referral motion back to administration.
Yep. Okay. Consensus, good. We got consensus. Right. And those of you who have your mics on, are you want to speak to this? Or are we just going to defer it? We'll just defer it.
Well,
Do you want-
I have a question.
Go ahead.
But it may not be completely related to exactly what we're talking about, but could we not use the word should? But anyway, now that that's taken care of. Assessments, are they done in a very mathematical format? Like, is somebody could like take an equation and say, well, I have a roof and I have 4 bedrooms and it's all like, or are we going to have people who are like, oh, well, assessment in error, just more for curiosity?
So if I may, through the mayor to Councilor Murray, as I mentioned, the 4-legged tax race that we're doing right now, as part of the July session where we talk about setting tax policy and the mill rates and stuff like that, we were looking to have our assessor come in late June, early July for Assessment 101 with council and orient, and you can have all these questions about what would you like to understand about assessment. So
sounds awesome,
right? The finances brings the fun. So if that is an acceptable postponement for that you guys can bring all of your questions in the summertime and have full understanding of all those pieces in advance of approving the tax policy in a subsequent meeting.
Okay, thanks. And just while we're discussing it, I don't really know that I totally support us waiting on this, on the word may, for that one individual who may not show up if they needed, a tax relief. I feel as though anybody who really needed a tax relief or wanted a tax relief would naturally be here. I just wanted to say that because I feel like it's kind of wasting time on a policy that I think is quite sound.
If I may, so this one is not time specific necessarily. So we do have the ability, and if we want to, this policy will be in effect for a few years. And if it makes council more comfortable, then administration's okay taking it away for, there's not an urgency for this particular one, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to defer it, right? Yeah.
We can. I just want to confirm, because I do see that Councillor Van Newkirk, that if there's any other work within the policy that we want to have looked at before closing down and going to debate on the two. So I have section 4.3.3, that's striking out the words such as terminal illness, and then section 5.4, which would be to compel the owner to attend. We'll look into a legal review of that. And is there anything else council is wishing for us to look at?
I'll go to Councillor Penrod first and then Councillor Van Newkirk.
I'm just queuing up to move the motion to refer, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, just a question for administration on this. It looks like we have consensus. Is that going to affect the next item on the agenda as well, or is the next item going to be able to stand alone?
It stands alone.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good question.
So we don't have any other potential
No,
amendments? We're
no
good?
other
Okay.
questions. All right, Councillor Penrod.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that Council Policy C50, Property Tax Relief Policy, be referred back to administration for further work on the following. Section 4.3.3 be amended as follows. Strike out the words such as a terminal illness and section 5.4 to compel the owner to attend and seek legal advice as to how to do that.
Any discussion? Okay, take a vote. And that carried unanimously. All right, so we will move now to the bylaw 1099 and third reading, and we'll back over to you, Mr. Boachuk.
Thank you, Mayor. So administration brings forward the bylaw 1099-26 property tax penalty, seeking first, second, and third reading. Penalties and timelines, or to look at penalties and timelines and all the elements associated with not paying taxes on time. So when we did our regional scan, it's a little bit of the Wild West out there as far as approaches, as far as tax penalties, timing of penalties. Really the only standard that it seemed to be was that everybody was in the aggregate of about 15%. Some do, so our penalty system right now is 6% on July 1st is applied to your bill. And then on September 1st, so 60 days later, 2 months, we put 3% of just the tax piece, not the penalties that have been applied, so it's not a compounding issue. And then another 60 days after that, we do another 3%. And if you make it to the end of the year, we roll that over, and it's on January 1st, there's a 12% penalty for anything outstanding at that point, and then on April 1st, we do another 5%. So part of the updating the policy and updating the bylaw, this is a very old bylaw, it had been amended last time in, I think, 2011, and it was 2001 was the outstanding one before, so that it needed some rework and some opportunities. So to bring it in line with the region and to make it a little bit less, to make it more friendly to the city. Okay, so it was definitely advantageous from the residents' perspective as far as the penalties go compared to other places. And so really what the city is looking, or what administration, pardon me, is looking to recommend is just a little more balance. So we're looking to, our current total penalty is 12%. We'd like to put that up to the 15, which is the regional equivalent across the board. So it'd be 9% effective July 1st and 3%. The other major difference is that now the compounding effect of penalties. So it's on the balance, not just the tax bill. So 9%, 3%. We're still leaving the 60-day period between each one of them. And then there's only the other changes, changing the 5% to 6% in the subsequent year. So that's really, in a nutshell, what the intended changes are and why we're looking to seek to do that. It's just a little bit more balance for the city. We want to collect our revenue in a timely manner. The longer the revenue stays out of our hands, we can't do the things that we need to do with it, whether that's getting investment income or return or paying our bills or anything like that. So that we want to encourage the collection of the dollars. We're not necessarily trying to generate more income as far as from the penalty side, because if the penalties are steeper, in theory, we could be costing ourselves money on the fine side because people pay them faster. I'd prefer to get all of our money up front rather than not get it and get some fines at the end. So it's really about incentivizing and making it more fair for the city to get the taxes that we're due. We have other things to pay, like provincial requisitions and things like that, that when we're not collecting the money, that's money coming out of our pocket until we collect it from the residents. So we really want to encourage that piece. So this is really the foundation pieces, and I'd love to hear what council has to say.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go to Councillor Penrod first. Excuse me.
Thanks, Mayor. And thanks again, Mr. Boachuk, for the good report. I'm glad you used the word Wild West and that it's not just us. I was struggling, from the first time I've read this bylaw, I've struggled with how to encapsulate how I felt about it, but Wild West does a pretty good job, better than anything I found. Is it just felt like it was all over the map. 3 months later, you pay 3%. Next month, later, you pay 3%. Next month, maybe 9. Like, it just felt like it was all over the map and not methodical. And so I always try to come at it from the perspective of maybe there's a reason for that I don't understand. So I wanted to start with the question of saying, is there a good reason why we should have several different percentages? Or in what's proposed now, it's down to 2 in the first year. Is there a good reason to have that bigger number at 30 days as opposed to the smaller numbers at 90 and 150 days?
So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod. So the normal standard, so tax notices go out usually about, we strive for May 1st, right? They have to be out for at least 30 days. So we give people 2 months notice, right? So effective July 1st, they formally have to be out by June 1st, and they have 30 days. We try to give them 60 days, so it's 60-day notice in order to pay your taxes. And then again, it's the steeper price on day 1 to incentivize, we need our cash, right? If it's a small penalty and some people backload their penalties, they start out small and build up, you're basically inviting not as much due diligence in your tax payment because you have some time. Where if we like to collect our cash flow is important to us, so we want to incentivize the collection upfront. So then it is, in essence, it's 60 days, 60 days, 60 days. Although I know it says 30 days formally, but we always try to get it out 60 days so they have 2 months notice in order to pay their bills.
Okay. And I do appreciate the rationale of, I'm glad that we've done the work now to look around the region and kind of find something and get a target. So we've aimed at that 15 and that brings some consistency. It strikes me that in year 2, we hope it never gets to that point, but that now in year 2, we're up to 17%.
12 effective January 1st and then 5 more after, yes.
Yeah, so why are we going away from the 15% number on that?
That also seems to be a regional average. I wasn't trying to, again, it's about encouraging payment, staying within the region. I don't want to be the outlier and be the tall nail, like, holy smokes, we're doing 30% over in Beaumont, right? So, but also not underselling ourselves, right? So just aligning with the region, being equitable, and trying to get our revenues in.
Okay, I do appreciate the thought that's gone into this, and I'm not generally in favor of trying to amend things on the fly. So it had occurred to me that maybe 5%, 5%, 5% at each of those 3 points might be the way to go, but I'll maybe listen to my fellow colleagues if they have any questions about it and take their advice on it. The last thing I did want to say is just that you have my strong support for the consistency of saying we're compounding the penalty and we're doing that all the time, as opposed to sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And I think just being consistent, I think you've heard me say on other fronts, if we're going to have rules, we should enforce them and do that kind of unabashedly. I think it's time to send that message across the community is we do have standards, we do have expectations, and if you don't meet them, there's a penalty to pay. So I hope on that front that this is just us being consistent. Thanks.
Councillor Cole-Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for explaining the 9% upfront. I appreciate that. Looking at it, there's the penalty at the 30 days, the 90 days, and the 150. I get the idea there. And then on December 31st, there's 12%. But by the time you hit that 150 days, you got to be in the middle of December, right?
It's November 1st.
Okay, so like...
So you have another 30 days, or another 60 days till the end of the year. So it's basically staged 60, 60, 60.
Okay, so they hit November, and then a month later, it's whacked with another 12.
2 months. So November 1st, and then January 1st is the year-end turnover.
And I'm guessing, like other, the longer it takes to collect, the less likely, or the more challenge you'll have getting those funds from whoever owes. I guess it doesn't become bad debt because it's tax, somebody's going to pay it, but.
So through the mayor to Councillor Colesmith, so in the instance where tax arrears get to a point, the city can activate their powers in order to, if it goes that far where we haven't collected taxes for several years, then we have the authority to put the house up for auction in order to reclaim our funds.
Right.
So that's the situation, talking about what Councillor Penrod was saying earlier about, we work with the resident to make every effort not to have to go down that path. And if we have to create a payment plan and stuff, like, we will help try to figure something out, but always has to be collected. It's never written off as bad debt. If it comes to this situation, then the house, there's an auction on it.
Okay, I like the 9% at first, the 3%, the compounding bit, I get that. I'll let the others speak, but I'm not fully on board with that 12% on December 1st. Maybe there's another way of doing that, but I'll let the others speak.
I guess, while Council Collection's thought, maybe I'll just comment one more time on that. So, and again, in the instance where, so we encourage payment upfront, 933, so that's 15% for the year, 12 and 5 for 17 more, and then that's annually. So if the situation keeps compounding, that it's not just, well, I made it to the end of the year and now the penalty is less than what it would have been if I hadn't paid my taxes in the first place, right? So there has to be a consequence, I guess, from that. So it's really just about, again, discouraging abuse of the situation.
Oh, did I turn? Sorry, I didn't.
I think I turned myself off, being honest. I guess I get where you're coming from. I understand. That 12% and then the 5%, if at December 31st it went up monthly or something like that, maybe I'd be more on board, but I'm still willing to listen.
Yeah, I think we're debating numbers right now. I appreciate the fact that you did the research and you came up with these numbers. They didn't just pull them out of a hat. So I can appreciate that. And I know that, Madam Clerk, you've encouraged us to go to the bylaw for the first reading and then we can continue to debate. Is that what you're asking? Okay, let's proceed for that and then we can continue with the questions on the floor. So that bylaw, property tax penalty bylaw, a bylaw to set property tax penalties be given first reading. So any discussion about the first reading? Okay, we will go to, see you up there.
Yeah, just thank you for this process. It's a cleaner way to do things. So typically on first reading, be clarifying questions of administration, focus being on questions. Then typically the second reading is where opinion and debate would come in. So just trying to help that along. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Van Newkirk. All right, so we'll go to a vote then. So that passed.
We do not have to move second reading to make any changes to the bylaw. We should probably make those amendments prior to going into second reading.
Okay. All right, so we'll go back to Councillor Murray.
Thank you. I think all my other questions have been answered, and I think that this is again quite a sound. I'll be voting for it. But my question is, do we have an incentive for residents that pay all their taxes in one shot?
Through the mayor to Councillor Murray, no. The taxes are owed. We would have to allow for discount or something in our budgeted revenue number. So that would be a slippery slope to go down, which I wouldn't want to do. So if we said, hey, you know what, everybody gets 5% off their property taxes if they pay them, everybody pays it on day one, and then all of a sudden we're 5% short on revenue, starting at a massive deficit hole. So that wouldn't be, I appreciate where you're going from the inducement piece from the positive as a carrot versus stick, but we would have to account for uptake on people doing that in our budgeted number in order to account for the discount that we'd potentially be giving out. And then you're just shifting tax burden from the people who have the cash and can pay like that, putting on the people who may be struggling more, and now you're compounding their penalties from that perspective.
Okay, so then even as a municipality, taking property taxes on a payment basis is
So payment
probably
basis is
ideal.
different, so that you can schedule things through your bank and set up that you pay the same amount of thing, but that's not what you suggested was on, you get your tax notice and you just pay the whole
Yes,
thing up down, and you get a discount on
I
that.
know.
No.
What I said was incentive, not necessarily discount, but I know it's kind of the same thing.
Unless we were giving away like swim passes or something that didn't affect the bottom line, that wouldn't be recommended.
Special card from the finance department.
Handwritten.
Yeah, a great big thank you.
All right, Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, for me, I don't really have any questions. I would like to move this item along.
Yes,
And I don't know the best way to do that, but for me, what I know is that administration has done a lot of research to get us here, and that, noodling about and supposing percentages right now, if we're going to do that, then we should just refer it back to administration. Otherwise, we should get rolling, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, we could, debate that all night. So if everyone is good with that, we'll move on to second reading. Unless anyone has any major things to go on, okay? Keep track of as well, if we go past our point of no return. Or return. All right, so if I could have someone, Councillor Penrod?
Yeah, I just wondered if I could ask a question before we move this, just one clarifying one, because Councillor Goldsmith put something kind of on the table that I can't find, and I just wanted to, for the public's sake, get some clarity on that front. So there's been talk around a December 1st date and a 12%, and I'm not seeing that. So maybe
Mr.
Councillor
Wojcik?
Yeah.
I'll refer to you.
Sorry, I think, so I'd say there's two pieces. So as I'm reading this, so under section tax arrears, section 10 in the bylaw, so any taxes and penalties remaining unpaid after the 31st day of December on the current year should be considered in tax arrears. And then that's the 12% and the 5%. Okay, so on April 1st, so January 1st and April 1st. So that's the December 31st, that's year end. As I look at, so supplemental tax, this is where the confusion is. So section 8, upon any supplementary taxes, so that's where the assessor does supplemental tax with new assessments. So I'm building a building right now, it's not taxable. After the tax notices go out, my house is up, but now I owe taxes because I'm a resident and I pay the things. And so any new residences get supplementary assessment. So they have a deadline, and they have to pay within 30 days. So they don't get the 60 window. They get, once their house is built, they get a 30-day notice, they pay their taxes, and if they don't, they have until December 1st. And if they're not paid by December 1st, then they're considered in arrears. Okay, so that's the two pieces. So December 1st is different than so that's just for supplementary tax, as opposed to I've been a long-time resident, my house has been here forever, and I pay on July 1st. My penalties are calculated on July 1st, 60 days later on September 1st, and 60 days later on November 1st. The December 1st date is just for supplementary taxes. And so I can understand now I'm understanding Councillor Goldsmith's anxiety around 30 days, and then so you can't pay on December 1st, and now we ding you, and then we punch you in the face again on January 1st from that perspective. So those are smaller instances, and usually as you're building your place, you're up to where, and the property taxes, if you're in effect from September, you're only paying a quarter of the property taxes that everybody else pays for a year, right? So the bills are much smaller and more manageable at that point, so it shouldn't be as much of an issue. I hope that clarifies the pieces.
Did that? Is that a different thing altogether?
I think I might be more confused now. So the section 11 that references that 12%.
Yes.
That would apply to any outstanding tax,
Yes.
including the supplemental. And
Or not it's regular tax or supplemental,
Yeah, so it's both.
effective at the end of the year.
Right,
Yes.
okay. That is what I thought, so that's good.
Okay.
And I guess it's just, right after December and you're in the hole and here's a big 12% jump right away. I don't know, is that incenting anybody? I guess that's where I'm coming from. Or can that be, you can still get to that same compounding effective tax rate by increasing it, month over month or something like that throughout that second year? Or is there a challenge with that?
Well, so now we're introducing so we're suggesting there be different penalty timeframes in subsequent years for different assessment reasons, right? Where we consider everything, you have until year end to pay. And at the year end, if it's not paid, all the balances are in tax arrears, whether it's a new supplemental house or an existing house, everybody gets the same treatment. Pay the 12% on January 1st, 5%. If we start doing, this one because it had a late start, now we're having to track things differently and do calculations at different times. Right now, it's the cleanest way in order to everything effective at the bank balance or the tax balance on year end is the balance carried forward.
I'm not suggesting you change the methodology.
Yep.
I'm just suggesting you don't treat the timing any differently. We just treat the percentage rate differently. And instead of 12% on that January 1st, there's a percentage January, February, March, instead of like one up front and then you wait.
May I interject here I think, if I understand you correctly, it's because of the December, we're coming off of a heavy,
That or I let it roll by and heck, I have no incentive to pay anything. I've already been hit.
sure,
Right.
gotcha.
So if I may, it was like saying, so it's top heavy is what you're suggesting in January and then you wanted to smooth it out.
Once it hits, I'm no longer incented to do anything until the next one hits, where if it were going up progressively each month, I should really get on this because I can see it getting worse, is where my head was at.
I understand that, yeah. Maybe, yeah. So, Councillor Penrod, does that answer your question? Because I want to.
Yeah, I wanted to get that piece clarified for the public. And then I swear, I promise, last Wild West question. Why is that number for supplementary taxes 6%? Because that's the only place that 6% is contemplated.
So through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, I just applied some efficiency. The old policy was 5%. I don't know where they got that number. I didn't want to go crazy and deviate from that, but I thought a small increase was pertinent and relevant, so I said 6% would be the difference for supplemental tax. Just since we're bumping up everybody's tax, it doesn't seem right to leave supplemental to not also feel a pinch. And I just prorated it based on that.
Okay, good. So, I don't want to lose this suggestion as well, so maybe I can throw that back at you in terms of if that's something that we need to make an amendment to.
So I think at this point it would be a motion to table to change the rates, and then council can vote yes or no on that.
Sure, though I don't know what the rate should be, but yeah.
So just spread out the 12 over 3 months, yeah. I mean, we don't have to go through all 3 readings tonight, that's not necessary. So we can certainly give it back to administration.
That might be cleaner.
Yeah. CAO?
Yeah, it's trying to help the process along and going back to Councillor Van Newkirk's comments earlier and Councillor Colesmith, you just said that is you don't know what the rate should be. We're giving it our best guess based on some comparisons and some expertise, and we believe the rate is workable, it's defendable. But if it's something that you're stuck on and you think it needs to change, then I would not pass third reading and give it back to us, and we'll come back with some suggestions. I'm just not sure that they'll be much different than they are right now because they're based on some as best logic as we could come up with.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not arguing the total annual rate, just the way it's being allocated throughout that second year. That's my point.
So what would you like to do? We could go through the second reading, and then we can put it back to administration. What would you like to do?
Yeah, I think I'd like to send it back to administration or see if we'll see if everybody else is okay with it, but I think that'd be a
To
good
vote
approach.
to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
And
So I'm just kind of getting a motion here, drafted here.
And we will, just to keep the clock, because we will have to make a motion to go past 10 at some point here. Are you wanting to speak to regarding this?
Yeah, it'll help me guide. Just a quick question for yourself there, Jay. I just want confirmation. You'd mentioned that obviously you looked at other municipalities. Are you, for what's being referred to exactly by Councillor Colesmith, does that align with other municipalities? That specific number?
So yes, through the mayor to Councillor Natelbas. So one, it does align that the penalty always at the first is significant. And from my perspective, it also mirrors our policy for in-year tax penalties. We go steep on first penalty, moderate. You get to the year end, steep on penalty, moderate top up. The penalty, the 12% is less than the 15 aggregate, so you're not being double billed, but you're feeling the pinch. And then if you're still not paying, then it's 17, it's more, so you don't get it's actually, again, detrimental to go the full year. If we, in my opinion, if we decided to smooth out the 12, we should smooth out the 9 and 9 and 9. But I think that that is not to the city's advantage about incentivizing collection in timely manner.
So just putting you on the spot here, if you were to come back with something, would there be much change in your opinion right now?
I wouldn't come back with something different. You'd have to tell me directly exactly what you want. If you provided me a principle, like I want it to be, my principle is based on incentivizing collection. If you want it to be based on equitable or manageable resident experience, then that would be a different direction, and I would come back with something based on that. But my recommendation is based on the principle of incentivizing cash collection.
Perfect, thank you.
Did you want to speak to that, Councillor Colesmith?
Let me ask this and maybe speed this along then. How many people get to this point? Or like do we have a lot of homeowners getting to this point, that second year?
No.
Then please forget what I said and let's move to second reading.
All right, so we will do a second reading here. Councillor Penrod, I'll cue you up here.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move that bylaw 1099-26 be given second reading.
All right, no discussion. We'll go into a vote. And that carried unanimously. All right, so going into third reading, any discussion?
I just need a motion to move third reading. Sorry, consideration for a third reading.
For consideration. Councillor Murray. Oops, it's gone. Sorry.
Thank you. I move that bylaw 1099-26 be considered for third reading.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Okay. I know that there was a suggestion here in the chat, and I believe that is exactly what Councillor Colesmith is planning to do anyway in terms of the next item here. I'm not sure if, do you want to speak to that? We're going to.
Mayor, I just.
I'm sorry.
We do still need to give third reading. We just gave consideration to third reading. Now we just need to give third reading.
Consideration. All right. Go again. Wow. Here we go. Councillor Hyde.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move that the bylaw 1099-26 be given third reading.
All right, any discussion? Councillor Penrod?
Thanks, Mayor. Just be really quick. This has been a bit messy and a bit painful, but I'm glad that we took the time to move this around. I hope that anyone that's listening hears that. I think we're aware that maybe this bylaw isn't perfect, but we've done our level best to see how it might be improved. And at the end of the day, we need to rely too on our experts that do the work, and so appreciative of that. At the end of the day, it does affect our residents, so we want to put the best thing we can in front of them, and I'm confident that we are doing that at this stage after a lot of good debate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. Bylaw, so 8.2, and this was pulled by Councillor Cole-Smith, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
I pulled this. I had some concerns about definitions and some of the flow in the document because of those definitions, and a few particular sections and some of the things that were exempt, though they appeared not to even fit in that section. So I was going to ask that we refer this one back to administration.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Cole-Smith, if you would like to give us exactly what you're hoping for us to work on within the sections of the bylaw, we can draft something.
Sure. Would you like me to do that now? I'm just looking at the clock.
Yeah, so instead of moving first reading for ease of time here, we can just go ahead and not give it first reading, and we'll just go ahead and just go straight into moving to refer it back to administration. If council doesn't have any concerns with that, or is there a councillor wishing to move first reading?
Copy and paste. Sorry, do you have like your questions or things written out?
I have a bunch of notes here written out, though I don't know that if I were to share them directly with you, that they would make sense, but I'm happy to.
No, we would need to go over those amendments. Alternatively, if there is, I'm going to look over at our chief, and whether or not this is time sensitive, we could always bring this bylaw back to another council meeting or committee meeting to discuss further.
Or committee of the whole?
Committee of the whole and hash it out there.
We could do that if council was in.
Yeah.
Just noting that we do not have room in April for this to come back, so we would be looking at a future committee of the whole where we would be able to fit it in.
Okay, so, but we would be able to fit it in at a regular session if we were to send back?
We could bring it to a future council meeting to discuss, but again, we would just be kicking it back to administration, just knowing that whether or not, like this conversation that needs to happen, if there's the changes, or if there's anyone wanting to move first reading this evening to proceed with all the readings, that is another option.
Oh, okay, so let's just clarify. You have a number of items that you saw in review that you feel like you'd like to make some changes, so.
And then I believe Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, there's a few on the, Councillor CAO, did you want to?
Yeah, from a process perspective, a suggestion I would make is defer this back. We'll bring it to another regular meeting. We'll have first reading, and we'll get your items on. It's just going to delay it, but it's been a long night, and I just don't think we're going to do justice to the changes that you'd want to make tonight, because there may be from others as well. So that's my suggestion. Just defer it back.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. Thanks, Jay. Yeah, I think this is the best thing to do. That way we can deal with it, you know, with the details that we need to make sure. And if there's room on the schedule in April. You do that?
Sure.
You do that?
Sure. I move that bylaw 1098-26, Fire Services Bylaw, be referred to a future council meeting or committee of the whole meeting.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll go to a vote. And that passed unanimously. Thank you. At this point, we have a few more items. We have the CEO update, and then do we have new councillor inquiries or councillor notices of motion?
I do have quite a few, so we will need a motion to extend past 10 PM just to get through these final items.
Okay. And will we need a motion for you to forego your update as well, if you want to forego it, or do you want to just?
We don't need a motion for that.
What I would suggest is I'll include it in the package, and I've got a couple pages, but they're pretty self-explanatory, and that will allow us to continue to move on.
Councillor Murray?
Just going to do that. Are we ready for that?
Yep. Move to
Okay.
extend.
I move that council agree to extend the meeting time past 10 PM.
Any discussion? Okay, go to a vote. And that carried unanimously. All right, so from there, we will move to 10.1. Is that correct? Okay.
I do have quite a few here, so as they come up on the screen here.
Okay. Okay, so please provide information on the materials currently required under Beaumont's general design standards for water service connections, including the impacts of allowing alternative materials such as PVC or similar products in place of copper, any key risks or limitations associated with these alternative materials, durability or failure rates, for example, the rationale and data for continuing to require copper, if applicable, and whether any changes are able to be considered in advance of a broader document review if no significant risks or regulatory concerns are identified. Councillor Penrod? Oh, I think we keep going back and forth.
Thanks, Mayor. Please provide information on the following: the number and approximate locations of private fire hydrants located on private property within the City of Beaumont corporate boundaries, and the cost to the city on a per hydrant basis of performing annual inspections and flow testing for city-owned hydrants.
Thank you, Mayor. Now we'll go to notice of motions.
Okay. So now we're going to go to section 11, notice of motion. Councillor Natellenbos?
Thank you, Mayor. At the April 14, 2026, I will move that by the end of Q3 2026, administration provide a report outlining potential locations, associated costs, and recommended approaches to establish a memorial in remembrance of Ryan Shuka.
Councillor Murray?
Yes, that administration review parking options and potential loading zones in the areas of 49th Avenue and 51st Street as part of the 2026 to 2027 review of the Municipal Development Plan, Land Use Bylaw, and Transportation Master Plan, and report back to Council with recommendations as part of that review.
That is all the motions I have.
Oh, that's it. Thank you. So, with that, we are officially adjourned. 9:57, according to my clock. Thank you, everyone.